A tired man was lying on the bed. He was wondering what he was doing because 3 years ago he had been hired by one of the companies as an ordinary hard worker. Memories flashed through his mind of how he offered instant weight loss products, at the same time saying that it's better for them not to find anything. The guy understood that he was deceiving others, as well as deceiving himself. And there was no scarier news when you have a permanent job. An announcer's voice could be heard on the news, talking about a bankrupt company. The same sad and tired guy asked to pick him up. He didn't care where, as long as they took him to another world. And here in the ancient ruins of Artelphia, there were stone buildings in this place that were already overgrown with vines, and trees had already sprouted in some houses. The elf girl was delighted. She thought the place was amazing. She would never have believed that they would be able to find a human relic in such a perfect position. She turned to Dex, thanking her at the same time, because he was always there on the way here. The girl was very worried because only they were able to escape. The cat scratched his cheek because he was embarrassed, but he laughed at the same time. Dex asked the girl what she found there. She looked at her hand, which had something in it. The girl said that it was a hair hike, and without a doubt it was a historically important find. Dex happily said that they had done a good job and wanted to take a closer look at this ancient thing. The girl did not see any problems in this. She asked him to be careful, because this relic would become the most valuable item in the royal treasury. The cat realized that it was left over from those ancient ones that had already completely disappeared. Suddenly, Dex bared his teeth and started laughing loudly, which caused the girl to be distracted from studying the new find. She was trying to figure out what made her companion laugh so much. He turned to his boss because he thought she should trust everyone less. He brought the hair closer to his muzzle, examining their treasure. Dex added that he was already very tired of following her everywhere. The girl was very surprised and suddenly realized that he had decided to betray her and also called him a fool. Suddenly, the girl's eyes widened very much. As it turned out, Dex threw the found treasure into his mouth, and at the same moment, there was a loud swallowing sound. The girl began to tremble with anger, because she couldn't believe that he really did it. And at the same moment, Dex lit up with a bright light. He realized that power began to flow in his veins, and realized what the power of those very people was. At the same time, he examined himself. The girl thought that he did not understand what he was doing. After all, this hair was so priceless. Dex said he knows that. The cat's hand began to glow more strongly, and eventually his arm acquired a muscular appearance. He informed her that this was why he would use this power. The girl was shocked by his behavior and did not understand what to do. And Dex continued that he would use the force to become the ruler of the world. The elf became instantly serious and said that he had left her no choice. A flaming ball appeared in her hand. The girl aimed a flaming bullet at Dex. The girl was surprised at the same moment when the dust from her bullet dispersed. The little cat Dex has just turned into a huge, strong monster. Dex started laughing furiously and shouting loudly that her attacks on him were completely useless. And he tried to attack the elf, and she was able to jump back in time. The girl realized that this was the power of the human relic, because such power was only from a single hair, and she wondered how strong people were in life. The elf had to cover her face with her hand. As it turned out, a bright flash appeared in the sky, in the center of which was a body flying directly at them. The girl looked at what was happening in surprise. Her eyes widened in great surprise. There was a crash from the fallen man and a bright pillar that followed right behind the silhouette. The elf hid herself from the wind and dust that the guy raised. The dust began to disperse, and 2 legs were sticking out of the hole. Dex and the girl stood there, not understanding what had happened. His legs were still sticking out of the hole, motionless. And at the same moment, the legs began to move. Movement appeared from the pit, and finally, a body appeared, which began to inspect the place of its landing. The guy didn't understand where he was, because he was going to confirm for sure that he had just slept at home. The guy thought it was a dream, even though it looked too realistic. Suddenly, he noticed a glowing cat and did not realize that it was standing in front of him. Dex wanted to know who this guy was. Thus, he scared him so much that the guy began to stutter and answer that he was an ordinary person. This made the elf wonder. The guy remembered what he had said and did not understand what he meant by it, but he didn't have cat ears or a tail like this guy, so that's an appropriate answer in his opinion. Dex repeated his words about the man and called him names at the same time. At the same moment, the cat began to scream angrily, thinking that he had decided to joke with him here. The guy thought he had insulted him in some way. Dex started swinging at the guy, and he started to shield himself from the fist flying at him. Dex hit the guy squarely in his arms. At the same moment, such a fierce blow turned into nothing, and it even surprised the guy. Dex marveled that he had managed to stop his attack. The guy was standing scared, he was scared, and he didn't understand what was going on here. He thought it was filming a movie because he hit it with incredible speed, but he didn't care. And there was a cute heroine and the bad guy. He still thought it was a dream, or a prank, or filming a movie, and if that were the case, it would be wonderful. He waited for them to tell him that he had been played. Eventually, the guy realized that this was the world he was asking for. But he still didn't want to be the hero of a movie. The guy decided to jokingly attack Dex and shouted at him to get it. He put his hand to his chest, and the cat flew into the wall of ruins, making a huge depression in it. Dex loudly spat the air out of his lungs. The guy started clapping his hands, saying that he was an excellent stuntman. The girl opened her mouth in surprise, considering it incredible. The huge cat began to moan in pain, his tongue stuck out, and he tried to catch his breath. Dex was trying to catch his breath, and the guy got into a fighter's stance, thinking that this was not the end. The guy shouted after Dex, who was running away, that he would answer for everything. When the bad guy disappeared, the guy fell to the ground, trying to catch his breath. He thought he shouldn't ever think about it. After all, the more interesting the dream, the higher the chance that it will be forgotten. Still, it's a vivid dream and feels like a real one, and he felt more than conscious. The guy came back to the idea that this was filming, and if so, then they just had great scenery. Suddenly, he was addressed. It was the elf who was thanking him for saving her. He wanted to know who she was, and she apologized for introducing herself so late. The girl's name was Ria, and she is an elf. The guy self-consciously introduced himself, and his name is Yoji Yamazaki, adding that he is a human being. Ria was delighted by the guy's appearance. She was excited because he was a real, revered man. Yoji was silent, not understanding what was going on. He thought it was weird. Ria thought something was wrong and asked him about it with a smile. The guy was thinking that Ria's ears didn't look like a prop, and there were no cameras nearby. She also kept saying mysterious things. Rai asked me to express her gratitude once again for his help. She couldn't have imagined that a human relic possessed such power, and using it conferred tremendous power. Yoji asked for forgiveness because he wanted to clarify whether he had been called to another world, because for him, everything that happened was no less unexpected. In the end, he realized that their worlds were completely different, because for his world, cars were common, and for this, huge dragons. The guy was thinking that he was called to a fantasy world with dreams and magic, and he was reading and dreaming about this. He decided to clarify that people in this world were legendary creatures. The girl enthusiastically agreed with his thoughts. Ria explained that they know humans as an ancient and powerful race. They are absolute beings worshipped in many religions. Yoji said that he had the impression that the elves were much higher class, experts in magic with high intelligence, balanced, able to do everything but nothing perfect. Suddenly, Rai turned to the guy. She said that here in Artelfia, he is an absolute being, and people are so strong that her subordinate betrayed her just because of a single hair of his. Yoji realized that it was cruel, and in his mind, he didn't understand how he dared to do that. Dex kept running off into the woods. The guy wanted to know how he should spend his life in this world. He didn't understand how he could walk around the city if even a small part of his body was causing such a fuss. Ria said that if the world knew about his existence. The guy immediately interrupted her and thought about it, because being called to another world is so ridiculous in itself that he won't be surprised at anything. Rai continued by saying that without any doubt, a global war will begin between countries for the right to possess his power. Yoji didn't think they would go this far. The young man was stunned, and asked why they were doing this. Rai replied that this was because whoever had the power of man in his hands would be able to control the whole world. In Art Mafia, human body parts are called relics and are used as tactical weapons. She gave the example of Dex, who turned into a strong monster. And if the existence of a living person were confirmed, then, most likely, the whole world would be engulfed in flames of war. Yoji didn't understand how this was possible. He asked Ria to tell him how he should live in this world, because he would like, if possible, to live peacefully and without unnecessary fights. And all because he had no desire to return to the life of a corporate servant again. And if he can start a new life here, then he will take advantage of this opportunity. Nevertheless, he did not want to be in the epicenter of a world war. Yoji imagined running away from the people who were running after him, because the relics should belong to their country. Ria said there was one way out. Yoji hoped that she would help him and he couldn't just show up in front of the others, so all he could do now was ask Ria for help. So he wanted to know what the exit was. The girl turned to him, saying that they themselves should build a place where they could live in peace. She was illuminated by the light of the sun, and the girl clearly smiled. The guy was immediately upset because he didn't understand what she meant. Ria said that as she explained, people in this world are objects of worship, and at the same time, there are bandits who are looking for parts of his power. Yoji must create his base to repel enemy threats and gather skilled followers to attack, and there is no other option for him. The guy thought she was joking, but the girl said it wasn't a joke. Yoji hoped that they could find a calmer and more peaceful path, but Ria said that there was no such thing. But she asked him not to worry. The girl sat down on one knee and turned to him again. She wanted to ask him if he would let her do something. The girl lowered her head and smiled. Ria continued that she would serve him and swore eternal loyalty. The disappeared people and their powers, the reason he was called to this world, and he still had a lot of questions. But maybe creating your own quiet place isn't such a bad idea, especially with sweet Ria. He was tired of his life, and deceiving himself and others. Yoji always dreamed of something like this. The guy held out his hand to the girl and asked Ria to take care of him. He wanted to go forward to a world where someone needed him. The girl looked at him happily and smiled, enthusiastically agreeing. Yoji was starting a new life, and at least he was useful to someone. Yoji turned to Ria while she was helping him cross the stream, because he wanted to know where they would start. The girl replied that they needed to hide it first, and she was worried about what Dex was doing right now. They couldn't let anyone know about Yoji until they established their base. The guy wanted to know how to do it. Ria asked him to follow her. A cave appeared in front of them, which was covered with vines. Yoji couldn't figure out where they were. The girl replied that they were in a shelter that was left over from her grandfather. Ria raised her hand and the lantern with the crystal lit up and the cave became bright. This impressed the guy very much. The girl added that similar places are scattered all over the world. There were various items on the shelves. The guy repeated that it was unbelievable. Ria said that her grandfather was humanoid, and a handsome man with glasses appeared in her memories, and her tongue would not turn to call his work safe. Because of his job, he often dealt with relics. He traveled the world fighting bandits who wanted to take over human power. Yoji realized that the humanoids of this world must be tough guys. The guy also realized that there were quite a lot of weapons here. Then he was addressed as a master. Ria thought that this place would serve as a shelter for them for a while. Yoji agreed, but he noticed that there was only one bed. Ria told him that he could sleep on the bed and she would stand guard at the entrance. That's because 30 minutes of sleep a day is enough for her. This startled the guy, and he repeated her words. Yoji said that even when she gets home late at night, she won't be able to sleep, and then she doesn't notice how the morning is coming. After all, if she has the opportunity to sleep, she should take advantage of it. The guy was already crying from understanding her words. The guy said he could sleep on the floor, but Ria should lie down on the bed. The girl said she couldn't afford something so audacious. Yoji realized that for her it was as if she was forcing God to sleep on the floor. The guy invited her to lie down on the bed together, smiling broadly at the same time. Ria rolled her eyes and blushed instantly, and suddenly screamed because she couldn't believe his words. She waved her hands in denial. Yoji started apologizing. They could find another way if she was against it. The guy realized that he had gone too far, but he had no ulterior motives because the bed was wide enough. But then he realized that making excuses was in his mind. Ria said she certainly didn't mind if he did too, and she decided that from now on she would be his guardian. He said it was mutual. But then he felt that they were behaving like newlyweds, and it turned out that it was okay to sleep in the same bed with him but not to leave him on the floor. The girl suggested getting down to business, which made the guy blush. She approached him, and it was too sudden. Ria pressed her lips to Yoji's. The guy was confused, trying to figure out if he could do what he was thinking. Requests flashed through his mind for him to get started. But then Ria, who was holding a mop, pulled him out of his thoughts so that they could clean up here. The guy agreed with her. It was already evening, and Yoji was sitting on his bed, eating dried meat. Suddenly, he looked at the entrance to their hideout. Ria was sitting on the way out, and he wanted to know if she wanted to eat. The girl said that this dried meat was the only thing they had left, and she'll go and catch herself something tomorrow morning. The guy was even more embarrassed. He held out the meat, saying that he had already taken a bite, but if she wanted to. The girl held out her hands in denial because she couldn't do that. The guy held a piece of meat very close to her face, saying that he could be in danger if she starved, because they could be attacked. The girl began to drool, and she swallowed nervously. Rai thanked him and said that she was in his debt for life. The guy said it was too much, but the girl apologized and decided to take a bite anyway. Suddenly, the girl felt something in her body. She grabbed onto the pendant hanging from her neck, and she breathed very deeply. Her skirt pulled up, and she blushed. She was very confused and tried to close herself, holding the same piece of meat in her mouth. Yoji didn't understand what had happened to her. And the girl started behaving even more strangely. Drool began to flow from her mouth, and suddenly the girl screamed. The guy wanted to make sure she was okay, because the girl fell to her knees. But Ria said it was amazing because she felt the human power of the master. And she explained that his saliva remained on the meat. She also felt that her magic powers had grown a lot. Yoji thought about it and realized that this indirect kiss had strengthened her so much. And just one hair had such an amazing effect, so he thought the effect of fresh saliva was even stronger. Ria turned to the master. She found it amazing that her hunger was gone. But it seemed to the guy that people were too strong in this world. At that moment, something was moving in the bushes. Something strange appeared next to the shelter. It was the first morning in another world. Yoji was stretching on the bed. He realized that he had slept well and hadn't had this in a long time, and suddenly the guy noticed something. His hand was on Ria's chest. He immediately threw up his hands and screamed, and then realized that they had decided to temporarily settle in Ria's grandfather's shelter, and had gone to bed together last night. The girl was still sleeping peacefully on the bed and snoring. Yoji's heart started pounding loudly, and the guy realized that she was cute after all. He looked at the girl's body and became even more confused. Ria turned on her side at that moment, still fast asleep. Yoji's attention went to the girl's lower body. He immediately realized what he was doing and immediately turned away. The guy started to get out of bed and think about how he almost got on the wrong track, calming himself down. Yoji started thinking about going to get some water while Ria was sleeping. He was already heading towards the exit when he bumped into something. The guy opened his eyes wide, not understanding what it was. Immediately, I heard the master scream. Ria jumped out of bed and grabbed her clothes. The girl hadn't seen the reason for Yoji's loud exclamation yet, but she was already running towards him. She saw the guy touching what had scared him and his questioning look in Ria's direction. As it turned out, the passage was blocked by a large slug. The elf explained to her master that it was a slug. The guy couldn't believe it. It seemed to him that the slugs in this world were too big. But Ria did not agree, because usually these monsters were beyond the power of even novice adventurers. The girl assumed that Yoji went to the nearest spring at night. The guy said he just had a dry throat at night. And Ria reported that this is the reason. Because, most likely, the slug absorbed the spring water that Yoji was drinking. The guy thought about it and realized that it was similar to Ria's behavior yesterday. But in any case, they had a problem, and at this rate, they would not come out soon. Ria, with obvious enthusiasm, said that there was no need to worry. She asked the master to step back, and he hid behind a bend. The girl had a glowing sphere on her hand again. Ria said that because of his strength, this opponent was nothing to her, and she fired a flame bullet at the monster again. Startled by the loud roar, Yoji squatted down and covered his head, and Ria stood firm in the smoke from her attack. The guy was surprised by her strength, but then they looked at the disappearing smoke. They both exclaimed loudly and in surprise because the slug was unharmed. The girl was angry and was about to make a second attack, saying that this time she would give him a hard time. Yoji asked her to wait a bit. After all, the slug had not shown any hostility towards them from the very beginning, and if he wanted to attack, he would have done it long ago. Yoji turned to the slug, realizing that he had come here because he had some business with him. The slug immediately began to make joyful noises, thereby scaring the people standing in front of it. Suddenly, Ria turned to the master again, and all because the slug began to change its shape. The girl put her hand over him to keep him safe. At the same moment, a recently huge slug turned into a tiny drop that was humming something. The slug stuck to Yoji's leg, but Ria couldn't believe that the monster was obeying anyone. The guy squatted down and asked the slug to give him a paw and then a second one. This made Yoji very happy, because the tiny slug understood him. Yoji decided to give him a name, calling him Lizen, because he was now one of them. Therefore, he had to try hard. He began to make his sounds approvingly. Ria realized that there was nothing wrong with that. Moreover, they managed to get a strong subordinate. And, perhaps, it could be said that this is the first step towards a world where the master can live in peace. At the same time, Mizcard is in the capital. The girl was sitting in the bathroom, and she was wondering if her sister was looking at the same moon as her. A girl came into the bathroom and turned to Rosa because she had a new assignment. As it turned out, the first reconnaissance unit was missing. Rose was immediately very surprised and scared. The girl who came in told me to take the second squad immediately and go in search of them to the ancient ruins. The girl remembered that they were located near the Ostrad forest in the west. Rosa wanted to find out what had happened to her sister, because she was now restless from such news. Rhea informed the master that she was going hunting. The guy got distracted from the slug in his arms and said he wanted to go with her. The girl immediately said that he shouldn't worry about it. Yoji put Lizzie down on the floor and said it was boring to stay at home all the time. Thanks to his magical powers, Lizen absorbed a lot of magical energy. The guy understood that he had to be careful, but he also needed to learn more about this world. Coming out of their hiding place, Yoji instructed the lizard to keep an eye on the house. He started jumping up and down, happily agreeing. The guys were already in the forest, and Rhea accurately shot an arrow at the bird. She began to fall from the tree with a loud rustle. Yoji said enthusiastically that she was doing well. Rhea didn't see anything special here, because by adding a little magic, the arrow becomes much more powerful. Besides, the girl could even control her a little. The girl pulled an arrow out of the bird, and she told the guy that this bird was bald and had delicious meat. The guy thought about it and realized that it was good that he had someone like Rhea because he could rely on her. And now it was necessary to process the bird so that it could be cooked. The girl began to process it, and drops of the bird's blood flew in different directions, which shocked the guy very much. Rhea said the taste can change depending on whether they've released all the blood. Yoji kept thinking that he was very glad that he had Rhea. After all, he lived alone and ate nothing but food from convenience stores. Suddenly, the guy noticed that they had 2 moons in the world. The girl realized that they have only 1 moon in the world. Yoji confirmed and said that it was white and had a yellowish tinge, and he had never seen reds or blues like theirs. Rhea said she would love to visit their world. Yoji looked at her sadly, which made the girl turn to him. He stood up and, rubbing his head, said that his world wasn't really such a good place. The girl looked at him sadly, and the guy continued that one way or another he would like to know more about her world, and he hoped that they would have fun. Rhea immediately began to smile happily. She was so happy and happily thanked Yoji. The guy remembered that he was wondering if he could use magic. The girl happily agreed and raised her finger up, making a small flash. And she said that when magic is used, it interferes with the laws of the universe with the help of its magical power. And with his power, even powerful magic won't be a problem. Yoji shook his head and said that since they were here, he would also like to catch some kind of animal. Suddenly, something caught his eye. It was a heavenly dragon, and they're usually calm, but once every 100 years they come down to earth and start doing something. The girl finished and looked at the dragon as fearfully as possible. She remembered her childhood, when a heavenly dragon descended to earth and began to set fire to the girl's village. Yoji wanted to know if everything was okay because the girl turned pale very quickly. Rhea smiled and told him not to pay attention because she was just dizzy. Yoji asked her not to overexert herself. But now he wanted to use his magic on this dragon. Rhea told him to use his magic, imagining the goal and what he wanted to do. And reading a spell will help you imagine it better. Yoji realized that the result was that there was no need to cast the spell. But since it was his first time, he decided to do as Rhea says. The guy raised his hand up and cast a flame bullet spell. After summoning the spell, there was complete silence. Yoji blushed and thought that he had failed. Rhea asked the master to look up. The guy followed her hand and immediately turned pale. Cold sweat appeared on his face because he realized what he had done. A bright circle appeared in the sky, in the center of which was a heavenly dragon that could not withstand such an attack. He swiftly flew up into the sky, becoming smaller and smaller. Rhea began to admire the master more. It seemed to her amazing that he destroyed the heavenly dragon from such a distance. Yoji stood there in incomprehension because the dragon had just disappeared. He began to think about what would happen if he used a spell on some forest animal. Rhea said that everything in the area would turn into a fiery wasteland. Yoji realized that it was a good thing he hadn't done it. He told the girl that he should probably try not to use magic. Rhea said that in this case, it would be possible to find objects that would overwhelm her. Suddenly, a bright glow appeared above them. The guy couldn't figure out what it was, but Rhea asked him to look up. As it turned out, the blue moon was missing. The girl repeated again that he was incredible because he was able to destroy even the moon. Yoji thought she was laughing at him, and he decided to clarify that this was not a bad thing because he was worried about the ecosystem. Ria thought about it and finally said that it was all because the moon was too fragile. After that, she tried to prove to him that it was the moon that was to blame for her fragility and he had nothing to worry about. Yoji enthusiastically said that he thought she was right. He finally offered to return to hunting, and the girl agreed. The guy decided not to worry about it. In front of the cave entrance, the guys were sitting at a table and eating freshly cooked food. Yoji said it was amazing, as always. Ria put her hands together and said that she was very pleased to hear this from him. It's been 3 days since they hid there. Yoji went through all the possible disasters due to the destruction of the blue moon, but nothing happened. And also, thanks to Ria, there was more than enough food and they didn't need anything. The guy kept repeating that she was such a wonderful girl, she was so kind and attentive. The girl was feeding Lizzie, and at that moment he was eating with great pleasure. Suddenly, a dream appeared in his thoughts, to have such a wife, who will greet him joyfully when he comes home and remind him of his night exercises every evening. He was pulled out of his thoughts by Ria, who had already called him several times, thinking that something was wrong, thereby scaring the guy. Yoji explained, very embarrassed, that he was thinking about something. He was wondering why he couldn't use magic in his world. Ria also thought about it. It seemed strange to her, because magic is inherent in all living things from birth. And it was unusual that magic didn't exist on its own, even though it was another world. The girl suggested, putting forward her hypothesis that perhaps their Earth consists of dark matter. The guy asked again, and Ria explained that it was a substance that absorbed and destroyed magic nearby. It's rare, but it's also found in her world. Yoji thought it was some kind of ore, but the description was different from the one he was used to. Dark matter is a form that has mass, but which cannot be detected by conventional methods. Yoji realized that if there was something like this on Earth, it would explain why he couldn't use magic. However, he had nothing to confirm it with. The guy stretched himself on a chair and realized that he was full, and thought that it was already possible to walk. He told the girl that he was going for a little walk with a lick. But the girl stopped him, saying that she needed to know something. She decided to ask him to give her a relic. The guy didn't understand what she needed it for, but the girl said that as his student, she was still weak. But with her, she will become stronger. Yoji understood everything and wanted to know how much hair she needed for this. Ria said that wasn't what she was talking about and decided to say it directly. She wanted him to pass this relic mouth to mouth. The guy blushed and tried to realize that he had understood correctly. The girl opened her mouth confusedly and said that it would be more effective to absorb magic that way. And of course he can refuse, and it's not that she wants to kiss him. Yoji, in his mind, he was just screaming with joy. He said that if she wanted it, then he was fine with it. The guy would never have thought that there would be an opportunity to kiss such a pretty girl. 2 people were sitting awkwardly on the bed and trying not to look at each other. Ria grabbed him by the shoulders and told him that she would start. And when they reached out to each other, Lizen stepped in between them. Ria immediately threw the slug aside so that it wouldn't interfere with them. The girl immediately turned to her master. And finally, they locked in a timid kiss. Suddenly, the girl leaned on him, knocking Yoji onto the bed, who was very surprised that she had become a little stronger. Ria pulled away from his lips, saying that he was so delicious, and she began to feel the power bubbling inside her. The girl clutched her cheek, which wanted more. Yoji thought that the human's saliva acted as an aphrodisiac because Ria was acting strangely. She just started jumping on top of him, asking him to satisfy her. The guy at first screamed at such a sharp attack by the girl, but resigned himself to it, saying that come what may. At the same time, in the capital of the kingdom of Misgard, people were talking, trying to figure out who had destroyed the blue moon, and assumed it was the demons. Some of them directly stated this and hoped that they were safe in the capital. The man was standing next to the window, looking at the vanished moon. He pondered over the vanished moon and thought that it was the work of demons. They immediately addressed the man, calling him Kazul. He thought they had found out something. The knight said they have a lot of complaints about Sivanes. Kazul told everyone to go to hell because there wasn't time for that. A girl who had heard the 2 men talking entered the room. The knight tried to say something, but Kazul interrupted him, telling him to stop, and he was wondering if the second squad of scouts had still returned. It was Rose who turned to the knight captain. She introduced herself again, saying that she was from the 2nd Scout Squad and she had returned from a mission. Kazul was glad that Rosetta had finally returned. The man was wondering if there were any results. She replied that they had not found any regalia, but they found something. Rosetta held out the hair in the box. Kazul took this box and repeated that it was a hair, and also thought that it was a relic. The man thought it was mysterious, and, unlike the rest, this hair was full of magic. Rosa said that she thinks that this is not one of the 1,000-year-old relics of humanity. Kazul looked at her in surprise and thought that she believed that there was a survivor. The girl didn't want to rush things. But a human survivor and the appearance of such a person may be the second possible reason for the destruction of the moon. The man thought about it and remembered that, allegedly, their family had become the death of them because of their incredible strength, and for them, destroying the moon is a snap. Rose turned to the Knight Captain again, and she asked for permission to continue exploring the ruins. Kazul realized that it was because of Rhea, and the girl confirmed it. And almost the entire first squad fell to the demons on the way to the forest. But they didn't find the remains of either Rhea or Dex. They may have been injured and are hiding to recover. Kazul said that they have much more pressing problems. But he knew he couldn't change her mind if she got hung up on something. And all because those two, and especially Rhea, he didn't want to lose them the most. The faces of two people dear to him flashed through his mind. Kazul said he was giving her a month, but that her attention should be focused on the ruins. And if she finds a person, she should come back with a report right away. The girl accepted the instruction and thanked him for the opportunity. Rose went to the door, and in her head she called to her sister to wait for her, and she would find her, no matter what it took. At this time, there was still a kiss between Yoji and Rhea in the shelter, and the guy didn't realize how long it would last. Rhea was all red with embarrassment, and apologized to Yoji in a low voice. After all, she was so embarrassed, and then she snapped and gave her first kiss. The guy asked me not to worry about it. Because they kissed for 10 whole minutes and then Rhea passed out. It seemed that human fluids act as an aphrodisiac on other races. The guy understood that if he continued to strengthen her in this way, he might not be able to resist in every sense. He decided to tell the girl that he was going for a walk. Rhea shyly told him to take care of himself. Yoji left the house and apologized to Lizen, saying that he was free now. There was an unknown girl standing at the exit without clothes, who had a butterfly on her arm. He couldn't figure out who she was or where she'd lost her clothes. But suddenly, a little girl ran to Yoji to hug him. The guy heard a familiar sound and realized that it was Lizen, who approvingly agreed with him. Yoji was trying to figure out how it happened. But suddenly, Rhea turned to the guy. She didn't understand what he was doing there with this girl without clothes. Her eyes were wild and a flaming bullet appeared from her hand. The guy realized that he was tired. But after a while, the girl was walking barefoot on the ground. And Rhea prepared at least some clothes for Lizen. Rhea found this unexpected, because after accumulating enough strength, a monster can take on a humanoid form, although this happens quite rarely. But, however, she had heard about it. The girl assumed that it must have happened because of his great strength. Yoji assumed that Lizen was a girl. Rhea said that wasn't quite true, which surprised the guy. Lizen lifted her skirt and smiled shyly. The guy was stunned to realize that Lizen was a ladder. And at the same moment, Yoji started banging against the wall, because the face was just his type, but that's just not what he was doing. Rhea said that's not what she meant. After all, since slugs reproduce by dividing in half, the concept of the existence of sexes cannot be applied to them. Yoji finally realized that slugs have no gender. And apparently she instinctively realized that they would like it much more with such an appearance. Yoji patted the girl on the head, calling her a fox. Suddenly, by the way, the guy decided to find out how she was feeling and if she had any changes. Because I've absorbed so many of his relics, the girl confirmed it. Her magic power had increased by an order of magnitude, and it was all thanks to him. Yoji thought that he probably shouldn't have mentioned that he also expected an increase in her other parameters, but all he said out loud was that there was nothing to thank him for. Rhea thought that her hearing and vision had also improved, and now she would be able to notice the intrusion even faster. Yoji realized that she was feeling an improvement in her magical and physical characteristics, and he wished he had felt something like that. Suddenly, the guy wondered how strong he was. Rhea turned to the master and said that the uninvited guests were not long in coming. Someone was walking along the path, and Yoji heard the same footsteps. The intruder was alone and, judging by the steps, was a man, and Rhea felt it. The guy was interested in the strength of this opponent. She replied to him that he was weak, unworthy of even mentioning. Rhea took out her weapon and said that even after he found out the location of their hideout, They couldn't let him leave here alive. The girl was very furious because she was a fool who dared to invade their sanctuary. She was going to make him feel the weight of his sins. Yoji tried to stop her, but the girl began to spin her weapon. As it turned out, the guy wanted to deal with him himself because he wanted to feel his power. And although Yoji understood that she would destroy the enemy, he was going to do it anyway. Rhea exhaled and said that she understood him. But he had to promise her that he would take care of himself. The girl was holding Lizen by the shoulders because the girl was rushing after the master. The same man was full of determination and said that he understood her order. The guy was thinking about his opponent, who wasn't supposed to be strong, so he hoped that he would somehow manage. A silhouette appeared around the bend. Suddenly, a foot appeared that was slipping on the ground. A man held a sword in his hand and started talking. He confirmed the rumors that it is he who lives in this cave. The unknown person told him to leave all his valuables and get out of here. And at least he can stay alive. At the same time, the man pointed his sword straight at his face. Yoji didn't understand why this opponent seemed so strong to him. But he understood that this place was his home, and Rhea and Lizen were in it. He understood that he could not accept his demands. The man said that he did not want to resort to attacks and destroy it. And in the end, this man swung his sword. The sword flashed past Yoji's body, and immediately the man began to return his blow in the opposite direction. Yoji fell to the ground and his face showed intense fear. He looked at the attacker and realized that he needed to retreat. That was because swords were too dangerous for him, because he couldn't fight with his bare hands against a sword. The man laughed and wondered how far he was going to run. Yoji, who was trying to escape but realized that he needed to counterattack. But he didn't understand how, because if he used magic he could blow up the entire shelter. He looked around. Suddenly, a rift arose between the young men, hitting the attacker in the face. The man with the blade did not understand what had happened. A slug began to seethe on the ground. And Yoji was surprised to see her. As it turned out, the bubbling of the slime meant that a lick was about to appear, which happened, making Yoji happy. Yoji sat down next to the girl and thanked her for saving her. At the same moment, an appeal to the guy was heard behind their backs. Rhea wanted to know if everything was okay. The girl stood in front of the guy and the girl, and Yoji said that he was fine thanks to the lick. The man noticed a slug in humanoid form and an elf, who were also such beauties. The guys stood in silence. The man wondered how much they would give at the servants' market, but then I thought it would be better to bring them straight to some noble. Yoji said that he was an egoist who wanted to make Rhea and Lizzie servants. The guy immediately ran to attack the man and shouted that he would not allow it. Yoji pushed the big-eared man in the chest, and he stared uncomprehendingly at the hand moving away from his body. A man flew out of the entrance to the shelter with furious speed. He crashed his back directly into the rock opposite and screamed loudly in pain. Blood sprayed out of his mouth like a fountain, and he fell to the ground, completely immobilized. Yoji ran out of the cave, wanting to make sure that he had won. There was another appeal behind him that made him turn around. Rhea flew into the guy, who hugged him joyfully and thanked him for protecting her. But in the guy's mind was Rhea's body without clothes. He was pulled out of his thoughts by a lizard that jumped on his back and started hugging him too. So the loving and happy guy stood and enjoyed being hugged by his girls. At the same time, Rhea praised her master, saying that he was incredible. The guy jerked his head up and said that the fight was worth the candle. Nevertheless, he decided to contact Rhea to do something for him. The girl used her treatment on the attacker. She said he was fine now and would regain consciousness soon. There was an unconscious assailant tied up behind her. But Rhea said he was too kind, and there was no need to ask her to cure some thief. Yoji explained that he simply did not want him to disappear, and he might have useful information. Suddenly, the attacker woke up, and his first words were that he was not as cool as before. He couldn't have imagined that he would ever be defeated by some puny guy like Yoji. At the same moment, Rhea became very angry and did not understand how he dared to address her master in such a way. There was a lick on the girl's head, which also felt indignant about this, and Yoji asked them to calm down. Because their goal was to gather information, which is what the guy did, he wanted to know what this thief wanted and what he was doing here. He looked down in frustration. He started saying that his sister was sick, and tears appeared in his eyes. The man said that money is needed for medicines, and their village is already barely making ends meet. And his sister might not even live to see tomorrow. Yoji understood why he was doing this, and wanted to ask Rhea if she could cure his sister with magic. She apologized, saying that she could easily heal wounds, but illnesses were a completely different matter. The guy looked sad, thinking that he was unlucky anyway. But then Ria said that there was only one way. He immediately wanted to know which one. The girl reminded him that he has relics, and with the power of magic, his relics can cure any disease. The guy couldn't understand how he could forget about it. But Ria said that she still doesn't recommend doing it. Because they needed to hide, and if he gave his relic to someone so easily, she was afraid that they might be discovered. Yoji realized that Ria was right, and they weren't ready yet, so it was dangerous to take such a risk. But he apologized to the girl and said he wanted to save his sister. After all, back in his world, he wanted someone to need him, and if he could save a disappearing person, then he would not sit idly by. Ria calmly said that she understood, but she's just making sure that the news doesn't spread. Yoji thanked her and Lizen cut the rope at that moment. The guy pulled out a hair and handed it to the man, saying that it was for him. He was shocked by the fact that magic power was gushing out of him. Yoji told him to give it to his sister, and he thought it would heal her. So he asked the guy to stop doing his banditry. He began to wipe the tears from his eyes and begged for forgiveness, feeling guilty. Finally, the thief decided to introduce himself. His name was Adai, and he was from the people of bears, and they live in the forest. He said he would repay their kindness, and thus, the first battle to protect the shelter ended with their victory. The next day came. Adai ran with the box, waving his hand in greeting. He came to tell me that his sister was feeling better. The guy was so grateful and asked Yoji to accept his gifts. He thanked him because he had obviously helped them. In the drawer was a bag of peas, a box of tomatoes, and jars with another bag. And by the way, the bear village was now their ally. Yoji supplied them with his hair, and they gave them food in exchange. Apparently, his hair could be used instead of magic stones, one of the most important things in this world. And the lamps in their shelter were also powered by hair. Recently, the price of stones has increased significantly, which caused the impoverishment of the village of Adai, and as a result, it led him to a criminal path. But the solution to the problem was Yoji's hair, which seemed like a good thing to him because he was helping others in this way. Adai, delighted, felt a whole sea of magic in a single strand. But the guy also felt sorry for Ria, who was just watching the simple distribution of his hair, and she hadn't tried it yet, so she was jealous of Adai, who got a hair each time. Yoji turned to Ria, wondering if she had made sure that the information wasn't leaked. Because he saw her walking with Adai to his village yesterday, the bear immediately turned pale. He said he was already late and needed to check on his sister as soon as possible, and he quickly ran away towards his village. Ria asked him not to worry because she had put a curse on every resident that would make them keep their promise, which meant that there shouldn't be any problems. The girls were looking at the tomatoes that Adai had brought them, and Yoji realized that Ria shouldn't be upset by any means, and that will be his promise. At this time, Rose was still searching for her sister. Ria asked the master to give them permission to set traps. Yoji asked again. She replied that thanks to his efforts, they did not have any serious problems with repelling attacks, but they did not know what kind of opponents would appear in the future. Yoji suggested setting up underwater traps. Ria said it was just a great idea, and decided to cook them right away. The girl started using the magic of the Earth Strike. An even circle appeared in place of her spell. This shocked Yoji because the hole was quite shallow. Ria apologized for the fact that the ground was quite hard. But the guy understood everything because even if her magic didn't work, then the ground is really very hard. And he thought there wasn't much they could do then. Ria suggested putting poisonous things in there. Yoji thought it was too cruel. But all he said was that it had gone too far and they should just drop it and just go for a walk. The girl sheepishly agreed with him, but he did not understand why she looked as if the whole world had ceased to exist. Suddenly, Lizen grabbed Yoji's jacket. And the guy realized that the girl wanted to help them. She agreed. The slime blew on his hand and a few drops of slime began to fall to the ground, forming and shaping new small slimes. At the same moment, several balls of slime flew into the sky. Yoji opened his mouth in surprise because there were more of them. Ria calmly said that it was cell division. She had heard that slugs could reproduce by dividing into several parts when they accumulated enough magic in their bodies. And thanks to Yoji's magic, she was able to achieve this state. The guy said that the little slimes were like they were being licked by children. This angered Ria and she fell to her knees because she thought that they had already had children before her, and so she turned to him. Ria tearfully began to ask him to make children with her, because she will divide her cells and they will have a lot of kids. Yoji shouted at her to calm down, but the girl continued that they would just clap and explode from her hands, like an explosive bullet. The guy was still trying to calm her down, but realized that she wasn't listening to him. He had no other choice, and he apologized to Ria in advance and clung to her lips. The girl immediately blushed. Their lips parted, and Ria exhaled and turned to the master because she didn't want him to stop. Their kiss continued, and they were both red with embarrassment. Tears appeared in the girl's eyes. She suddenly screamed with pleasure and fell right into Yoji's arms, unconscious. This surprised the guy very much. After all, instead of calming her down, he only reactivated her. The guy picked her up in his arms and asked her to ask the younger ones to look after the entrance. The girl accepted the order. He told her that if she saw intruders, she should only try to neutralize them, but not try to destroy them like Ria. Yoji carried the girl to the bed, and, a little worried about her condition, he thought that Ria was prone to overstepping all bounds when it came to him. He looked at her and realized that she was just trying really hard for him, and it was sweet. The girl was unconscious, and the guy was looking at her a little sadly. He wondered why she was so attracted to him. He began to recall some of the moments he had spent with her. But then, there was a loud shout from the street, which immediately puzzled Yoji. He didn't understand what it was, and it was clearly not the voice of a lick. So it meant only one thing: they had uninvited guests. The guy was peeking around the bend. Suddenly, he saw something. It was a girl with her legs sticking out of a hole, and they were shooting slime at her. The girl didn't understand what it was, but Yoji realized that he was right. Rosa was told that it was too sticky, and how much, and that she couldn't move because of it. She started making different noises again. So the children attacked her in different ways, and made her feel disgusting. Yoji didn't think that the underwater traps hadn't worked. The guy wanted to add something, but something attracted him. It was Rosa's big breasts. The guy thought they might be even bigger than Ria's. The girl at that moment was glad that she was finally able to free herself. Then Rosetta saw Yoji peeking out. She called him arrogant and didn't understand what he was staring at. The guy realized that she had noticed him and told her that he wasn't staring at anything. Lizen looked at Yoji questioningly, and at the same moment, one of the little slimes tore off Rosa's bra. The girl was left in her tights. She immediately screamed and started covering the place where the clothes had been. Yoji started praising the girl for taking out Rosetta, but she went too far. The guy was sorry, and he wanted to make sure everything was okay. The girl, all in tears, pointed her finger at him and did not understand why he had not saved her yet. Yoji, who was holding a lost piece of clothing in his hands, thought that such an attitude in such a situation was strange and assumed that it was important. Someone called out to him. She was the one who saw him clutching women's underwear and didn't understand what he was doing here anyway. Suddenly, Ria was called out, calling her sister. Rosetta was sitting completely soaked in happiness, but Ria was surprised by her appearance. They finally met. A long-awaited reunion with her sister. Tears of happiness filled Rosa's eyes. Rosetta was sitting and was glad to see her sister. She knew that Ria was alive, and she just started crying with happiness. Ria turned to her sister, asking her to get dressed first. At this time, the lizard was closing Yoji's eyes. And Ria introduced her sister, saying that they were almost the same age, but Rose had become a knight 2 years before her. Lizen lined up the younger ones in a row, and Yoji realized that she was Ria's eldest. Rosetta started saying that they should return to the capital together. Because there's been a lot of noise lately about someone destroying the moon. Yoji shuddered when he heard about the moon and how Rosetta needed Ria's help to quell this chaos. After all, he was calm because he thought that nothing much had happened after that incident, but it caused a lot of panic. Suddenly, Ria interrupted Rose, saying that she had sworn allegiance to Yoji, a human, and she won't be returning to the capital. She asked again because she didn't believe this Newman could be human. She didn't feel any energy from him. Ria said that Yoji is actually a human being, and his magical energy is so great that an ordinary person cannot feel it. The guy decided to ask the girl in a whisper, because he did not understand who the Newmans were. She explained that they were a race of people who had inherited highly concentrated human blood. They don't have exceptional magic, but they look almost exactly like real people. Their distinctive feature is their round ears. Yoji thought that if someone saw him for the first time, they would think that he was Newman. It sounded convenient to hide his identity. Rose hoped they didn't expect her to believe it without proof. She pointed at the guy and asked him to show her proof that he was actually human. Yoji offered to give her a lock of his hair, but Ria thought it might go too far, because even a lock of hair with magic. Suddenly, the girl offered, if he didn't mind, to put his finger in her mouth. It shocked the guy very much. He thought she might get angry or furious. Ria said that everything is fine and she always listens to her. And since it was Ria's idea, she didn't think Rose would mind. Yoji looked at his fingers and wanted to get it over with. Rosetta said that when he got this close, he still didn't look anything remarkable. She didn't understand how someone like him could like her sister. She found his claim to be human suspicious. The guy realized that she wouldn't stop. Yoji sat down and asked the lizard to ask the younger ones to grab her, who agreed and ordered the younger ones to do his bidding. Slimes immediately wrapped around the girl. Rosetta didn't understand what it was. The guy said that this was the proof she had asked for, and he held out his hand to her. Then he shoved his fingers into her mouth. The girl's eyes widened because she felt a surge of magical energy. She didn't understand what it was. Yoji thought that the sweat on his hands had worked. The girl was slobbering on his fingers at that moment. The guy's lower back started to burn, and he still didn't take his hand off the girl. Ria turned to the master and said that she thought it was enough. He was embarrassed and agreed. He also hoped that she hadn't noticed his obscene thoughts. Rose was saddened. She understood what was going on, so she has no choice but to believe them. The girl added that she felt a mysterious and unlimited energy from his fingers. Ria decided to ask her sister what she would do. She said she was ordered to report immediately if she could find the man. But, however, her loyalty does not belong to the country, but to her sister, and of course she would help them both. Yoji said that it was certainly good, but he wasn't sure if she was sure of her reasoning, because in this way she was betraying her country. Rosetta shouted that he was arrogant, because in this world only her sister was allowed to call her by her first name. The guy said he was sorry, and he was also embarrassed. Ria turned to the master, saying that they were in great need of supplies and information at the moment, and she thought it would be better if they sent her to the capital, because in this way she will be their spy. She also wanted to make sure Rosetta could handle it. She told her to leave it to her. And she added that her dear Rose exists only to dedicate her body and soul to her. Ria was serious at one point, and she said that if she found out what had happened to Dex, she should have let him know, because she couldn't even imagine what he was up to. Yoji thought that this old man was the main threat to them at the moment. He knows about his identity, and he also has the power of a relic. Ria also decided to add a few more words as a warning. It would be better for Rose to keep an eye on how she addresses her master, otherwise she could destroy her accidentally. Yoji was scared by her words. Rosetta was delighted by her magnificent murderous aura, and she called her sister gorgeous. The guy thought she was crazy. He also asked her not to worry about him. Ria said that if he says that, he won't. Ria had his own quirks too, so he wasn't surprised if there were a lot of such weirdos among the knights. At the same time, Dex was sitting on the floor near a stone wall and did not understand why this had happened to him. The cat was tearing his fur because he needed more relics. Someone unknown said it was disgusting. Because the guy called Divine Blade had fallen so low, Dex didn't understand who was here. The unknown man introduced himself and said that his name was Grice and he was an ordinary demon, and he also said that there was no need to swing his sword. And he wants to negotiate a peace deal. Dex felt the power from the vial, and that power was similar to the power of a relic. Grice said they were demons, looking for people for a long time. And they were able to learn how to produce illegal substances with the same effect as the relics. Dex already wanted to experience this taste all over again. The cat became rabid and begged, or rather demanded, that he give them to him. At the same time, he poked at the demon with his dagger. The demon said he could take them, of course, but in return he had to destroy a man named Yoji. Ria was sitting on Yoji's lap, embarrassing the guy. He turned to her and said that was enough. Lizen watched them with interest. The girl did not expect such a reaction from the guy. She was embarrassed and walked away from him to the other side of the room. Yoji felt awkward about this situation. He asked her not to make that face, because she didn't want to lose consciousness again, so she had to slowly get used to it. Ria was very upset, but agreed with him. It's been a while since Yoji came to this world. In order to boost Ria's strength, every morning begins with a kissing session. Ria was saddened because she wanted more kisses. Yoji tried to support her. Ria informed Yoji that his bodily fluids were so delicious that she became addicted, and she really wanted to lock lips with the guy forever. Yoji suddenly exclaimed that there was no need to rephrase that. Yoji was surprised by what Ria said. Such a thing as bodily fluids confused him. In the guy's fantasies, the girl enjoyed his bodily secretions. Suddenly, he felt ashamed of his own fantasies. Adai approached the cave and called out to Yoji, but his path was blocked by the younger Lizen. He asked if the guy was here. Yeji called out to him in response, thereby indicating that he was there. Yeji asked the guy what he needed and asked if he still needed his hair. Adai said he didn't need hair, he wanted to ask for advice. Yeji was surprised by this. Adai reported that his younger sister was behaving very strangely. The guy explained that his sister was agitated and distracted, she had never bothered him so much. Adai said he was happy that she was healed thanks to them, but he couldn't help but worry when she was like this. Ria, hearing this, thought about it. Ria reported that this may be due to side effects. Adai and Yeji looked at her questioningly and fearfully. The girl said she had heard that the relics may contain a prohibited substance. She said that if a person has swallowed a relic and can no longer consume them regularly, they wrap the body with stress, and it can even lead to death. Adai was very scared when he heard this. He couldn't believe that it could be so dangerous for his sister. Yeji tried to calm the guy down. Yeji thought that if his relics were so dangerous, then Ria must be sick too. He said that in any case, they should take a look at it. The guys came to the bear village. Yeji said it's pretty busy there. The people in the village were cheerful and friendly. Adai said it was all thanks to Yeji, and the guy was very surprised. Adai said that mixing Yeji's hair with their fertilizers was a great solution. Their special apples and tomatoes have become even tastier. They have a lot of orders from a famous restaurant in the capital. Yejin thought about how crazy his hair was. Who would have thought that Yeji's hair could help the development of the village so much? Suddenly, Adai announced that they had arrived. There was a big, beautiful house in front of the guys. Adai said that despite his appearance, he is still the head of the village. The guys were surprised by this. He behaved like a bandit, but turned out to be the head of the village. A girl ran out of the house, turned to Adai and said that he was too late, asking where he had been all this time. Yeji looked at her in surprise and said she was cute. Adai hugged his sister and she tried to escape from his embrace. The guy said to look at his sister and asked if she wasn't cute. Sister Adai asked who all these people were and said that she had told him not to bring anyone into the village. The guy informed his sister that they were nobody and introduced Yeji to her, saying that he was the one who saved her. The girl was surprised by this. The girl suddenly screamed. She fell to her knees and began thanking Yeji for saving her and apologized for her earlier rudeness. The guy told her not to worry about it. The girl said that Yejin was very kind and only told her to look at these rags, and then told her to wait a minute. A moment later, the girl returned in a beautiful dress. Adai was very surprised by this. He asked her if she hadn't hidden these things, saying that she would only wear them when she had a boyfriend. She asked her brother what the abnormal conversations were, and said that these were her casual clothes. The girl turned to Yeji and said that they had almost nothing to offer, and asked them to make themselves at home, saying then that she would go cook dinner. Yeji contacted Adai and said that he understood why he was so worried. Adai was very confused and worried. He thought it was all because of the relic. Soon, the table was set with delicious food. The guys were very surprised by this. The girl said that she had used all her skills to cook it for them and offered to try a piece. Yeji tried one of the dishes. The guy really liked it. He said it was very tasty. Yeji said that one day she would become a very good wife. Morale was very surprised and embarrassed by this. Adai said it was too early for her to do that, to which she told him to shut up. The girl asked if Ria and Lizen liked the food. They told her that everything was delicious. Ria even wanted to know her recipe. It seemed to Yeji that the girls even got along. He must have thought that Ria had met Mireia before they went there. Obviously, she put a curse on all the inhabitants of this village so that they couldn't tell anything about her. He wonders what exactly she did. Yeji turned to Adai. He asked him if Ria had been here before. Adai suddenly dropped the spoon from his hands. The guy apologized and said he felt a little sick. Adai was very excited and scared. He said that he would go and lie down to rest in his room and said to enjoy dinner. Mireia looked at her brother questioningly. Ria didn't understand what happened and asked what happened. Yeji said he didn't know, but he was wondering what she had done. Ria said she would go for a walk around the village to test the effect of her curse. Yeji said it's dark outside, so you should be careful. Ria asked if Lizzie would go with her. Yeji went up the stairs and reasoned that since Adai had asked, he should check on Mireia now. The guy went to the door and knocked. He asked if he could enter the room. Mireia opened the door and allowed Yeji to enter. The girl's room was very nice and cozy. Mireia apologized for the clothes on her chair and asked him to sit on the bed. The guy thanked her and sat down. Suddenly, he noticed that something smelled delicious. He thought about it and realized that for the first time he was in the room of a teenage girl. Yoji looked at Mireya. She was very excited. The guy needed to check what was wrong with the girl. He asked her what happened and if she was okay. Mireya turned to Yoji and said that she loved him. The guy looked at the girl questioningly, and she was waiting for his answer. Yoji couldn't believe that this was a real confession. Mireya said that she loved Yoji, and the guy awkwardly turned to the girl. Mireya said that when she thinks about him, her heart starts pounding very hard, as if she is not herself. She knows her brother is worried about her, but there's nothing she can do about it. Yoji thought about it. He was trying to find an excuse for the girl's words. And in the end, he came to the conclusion that it was love. The guy said that Mireya was acting so strangely because she fell in love. It seemed sad to him that he hadn't realized this, because no one had ever fallen in love with him before. Yoji tried to understand how she felt. Mireya said she has a dream. And this is the dream of becoming a fashion designer in the capital. She ran her hand smoothly over her clothes. The guy was surprised that it was all done by a little girl. She confirmed and said that they are quite popular, so they are sold in a matter of seconds in the capital's bazaars. Yoji thought it was amazing. Mireya wasn't sure about her knowledge and enthusiasm when it comes to clothes. The girl wanted to ask him if he knew that almost all of their clothes were designed by humans. He asked again to get confirmation. The girl has always been very respectful of helping people who do such things, and she worships people almost like gods. And when she heard that her illness had been cured by a man, she realized that it was fate. And now that she'd met him, she was sure of it, that she really loves him. The guy blushed at the sudden admission. Yoji tried to say something to the girl, but she interrupted him, saying that this did not mean that she was forcing him to tell her the same thing. Because she knew he already had Rhea. She also knew that she wasn't his type. The guy said it wasn't like that. He reflected on the fact that technically he and Rhea are not in a relationship. Mireya said that if it suits him, in this case, she is ready to become his mistress and serve him when he needs her, while she lifted her skirt. The guy closed his eyes, trying to stop the girl, but she continued to take off her clothes. In the end, the girl was standing in front of him in her underwear. The guy didn't understand what was going on. But he was thinking that even though he wasn't an expert, to be honest, her underwear was very similar to what it was in Japan. And if you think about it that way, what kind of genius thought of attaching ribbons to underwear? But Yoji decided to come to his senses and return to reality. Mireya was already sitting on his lap and taking care of his clothes. She turned to the guy, having said that if he doesn't want it, then he shouldn't be afraid to say no. Mireya began to reach for his lips and eventually closed with Yoji's lips. The tail behind her abruptly stood up, and she kept making out with the guy. Pulling away from his lips, she exhaled loudly, receiving charges all over her body. She was amazed by his strength, finally finding out what she really was. The guy realized that the aphrodisiac effect of the relic had begun to take effect. The girl lifted up the top of her underwear and addressed Yoji. She was about to start now, and she was asking him to feel it. Mireya pressed her lips to his again. Her eyes widened and she screamed loudly in pleasure, drooling from her mouth. Yoji was shocked by what was happening and didn't know what to do. Eventually, the girl passed out. The guy began to cover her as she began to feel ashamed of what had happened. Mireya started crying because she couldn't even serve him in bed. Yoji told her not to get upset, because the limit of a normal girl is about a minute, and Rhea can last about 10 minutes. Mireya looked sad. The guy thought she just wanted to thank him for healing her. And suddenly, he remembered something. He asked her to make some clothes for them. Mireya jumped out of bed and immediately agreed, saying that if her skills could serve him, then she would be the happiest, and nothing else could make her happier. Yoji wanted to know what to do in exchange for clothes. After all, even if she wanted to repay him, he had to give her something in exchange for making clothes for them. Mireya cunningly bared her teeth and invited him to watch. The guy turned around in incomprehension, and at the same moment the girl clung to his lips again. Yoji blushed at this turn of events, because as a reward, Mireya wanted to take a few kisses from him. At the same time, the girl covered her mouth with her finger. The next day came. Lizen was wearing a new outfit and Yoji told her that it suited her very well, and Rhea realized what Mireya had done for them. The girl thought that they should somehow repay her for this, and the guy immediately replied that she should not worry because he had already thought about it. Meanwhile, Maria was sewing a new outfit, and her brother saw that she was behaving strangely again. Suddenly, there was a sudden outburst. Yoji covered his face with his hands, shielding himself from the bright light. He didn't understand what had happened or why it had suddenly become dark. Suddenly, the guy realized that he was sitting right in front of Ria, who was standing in front of him and lifting her skirt. Realizing this, he jumped back and apologized to the girl, saying that he did not do it on purpose. Ria said that everything was fine and it was an accident. Yoji couldn't figure out how it all happened to him. He recalled that on the orders of the lizard, they began to dig the area around the shelter, and it was at that moment that a bright light appeared. The guy looked around and asked the girls how they got there. Ria said that he most likely hid the teleporter ion device buried underground. The girl assumed that they were under shelter. Yoji was surprised by this. He asked why there was such a thing underground at all. The guy touched the wall and said that it was made in a way inaccessible to the current civilization. He asked if that meant it was made by humans. Ria agreed with this, and noticed that this place looked like the ruins he found himself in when he was called up. People must have lived here once. The girl said that the guy shouldn't dig so deep anymore, because there might be similar things hidden underground. Yoji asked Ria if her grandfather had ever told her anything about this place. The girl said that she had never heard anything like that from him. The guy suggested that there was a reason why he kept it a secret. Lizen suddenly looked at something in fright. Yoji suggested that there might be something dangerous in this place. There was a huge golem standing behind the guys. When they turned around, they saw him and were very scared. The golem started making strange noises and said it had detected intruders. Suddenly, the monster said it was turning on combat mode. Now Yoji understood why Ria's grandfather hadn't told her about this place, but he still didn't understand what this thing was, even though he had heard threatening noises. The battle preparations were completed, and the violators were intercepted. The big stone guard made a swing at the guys, but they dodged the attack in time. Ria realized that it was a golem, and Yoji asked again, realizing that it was one of the weapons created by humans. Some stories say that golems are so powerful that they can destroy an entire country, and no one could defeat them. A girl and a guy were trying to escape from his attacks, but they were able to get this far thanks to his human abilities. But if the golem was made by humans, when faced with another human force, he becomes powerless. Yoji felt like he had no chance. Suddenly, Ria asked the master to stay behind. A ball appeared from the girl's hand, and she used her explosive bullet again. Those bullets were already flying straight at the golem, but it was using its protective barrier. Ria couldn't believe that it was an anti-magic shield. The guy asked again, and the girl explained that this was one of the techniques that people used. A device that completely blocks magic. She would never have thought that the golems would be equipped with a claw clock. Yoji didn't understand everything, but now the golem seemed even more dangerous than before. After all, even magic is useless on him. Yoji didn't understand what to do with the ancient human tools now, but the golem was already rapidly about to attack. The guys noticed it, and Ria decided to use an ice shield. Under the golem's heavy blow, the shield was instantly covered with cracks. At his command post, it was said that an obstacle had been discovered. His next action was to neutralize, and his hand transformed into a drill, which immediately began drilling into the shield. Yoji knew she wouldn't last long. Suddenly, he noticed something. It was an emergency shutdown button. He wasn't sure if he had read it correctly, but he realized that this was their chance. The golem noticed that his opponent had run out of hiding. The stone guardian switched to Yoji. Ria immediately shouted towards the master. Dust rose into the air, and out of this dust appeared a guy who was holding on to some part of the golem and shouting for him to get it. Yoji pressed the button and it surprised Ria and Lizen. The golem switched off with words, saying that the human life signal had been confirmed, and it was possible to start disabling combat mode. The guy immediately exhaled, saying wearily that they were saved. He got down from the golem, and Ria and Lizen immediately ran towards him. They were already hugging him. And then the system alerted him that he had been summoned by her new master. Everyone turned around uncomprehendingly, and a girl began to appear out of nowhere. She looked like a doll, and it looked like she was transforming. A girl with short black hair bowed to the guy. She thanked him for waking her from her sleep. The guy looked at her actions in shock. With a stutter, he called her a golem. His companion was not happy that the unknown woman was paying attention to the guy. The guy was still looking at the girl with short black hair with surprise. The golem turned into a girl. He couldn't believe it. The black-haired girl introduced herself to them. Her name was Kazumi. She was one of the golems. Her task was to guard the first floor of the hot springs. The guy and his companions, namely the slug and the elf girl, were surprised. It was the first time they learned about hot springs. After a while, their loud cry of amazement sounded. Kazumi showed them a place with hot springs. The hot springs that were under the ruins. The floor was designed so that Mr. Casey could enjoy swimming here. The guy, having heard about Casey, wanted to ask the golem for information about an unknown person. That's why I turned to Kazumi. Kazumi explained that Casey was the one who created her for her. She was called a genius inventor, but she hated people. In order to overcome boredom, she created an underground facility, and they were created to protect this place. The guy realized that the inventor was an introvert. After learning about Casey, the guy asked the girl about the other golems. It turns out that they really were nearby. Based on Kazumi's knowledge, there were 4 other golems in this place that were her sisters. Each of them guarded the floor of an underground facility. In order for them to go further, it was necessary to defeat them. The guy felt weird about this news. However, he was glad that there were hot springs in this place. You could only swim in them, no more. The guy's companion wanted to know how to maintain a constant water temperature. She asked the golem that. Kazumi picked up the slime monster. Most of the machinery in this place was powered by magic derived from the human body. As long as the owner was near the floor with hot springs, all the machines would work as intended. The guy is already used to living in this world and now knows what to do. He made the right decision for himself. Namely, to stop thinking deeply and not to think about something complicated. It was convenient for him to do so. The guy, having examined the floor, wanted to make this place his base. That is, a place where you can live and relax. Anyway, the shelter that was upstairs was temporary, therefore, he wanted to use this place for himself. To live in peace, they need to have enough power to stand up to countries. So the girl knew that, in the end, they had to leave that shelter someday. He thought that the place they found looked very protected. The golems created by man were monstrously powerful. It will be faster to get 1 golem on your side than to gather 100 allies. But the guy didn't want to do what his companion wanted yet. He wanted to leave things as they were for now. The girl, who is a member of the elf race, understood his concern and fear about golems, so she changed the subject and wanted to go move their things to this place. Kazumi, having found out that she wanted to go outside, told her the way to get to the top. Slime is comfortably positioned on the golem. The guy was glad that Rhea agreed to stay here. He doubted that they could have found another place with such magnificent hot springs. He liked his current lifestyle. This peaceful and relaxed lifestyle won't get away from him that easily. Soon, they moved all their belongings inside the room. After a while, the guy put all the furniture and other small things in their places. It was time for him to go to the hot springs. The guy was blissfully enjoying swimming in a huge thermal water pool. After bathing in the hot springs, he received a massage from Kazumi. He lay in bliss while his body was kneaded by a girl. He liked the way Golem was massaging him. Because of her massaging him, his clogged muscles relaxed. He considered the girl a real professional in Thai massage. Because of this massage, he wanted it to never end. Kazumi's massage technique was great and was the best in the world for the guy. The girl was not surprised by her skill. 80% of her body was made from massage functions. The golems that her mistress Casey created are conducting their own examination. The guy, although still enjoying the massage, was surprised by it. The girl was so strong, even though only 20% of her functions were dedicated to battle, but the girl refuted his words. Of the remaining 20%, most were responsible for communication, with combat modules accounting for only 2%. The guy realized that it was better for him not to go up to other floors. While taking water treatments, he wanted to drink milk coffee. Kazumi accepted his request and asked him to wait a second. The guy was at a loss. Turning his head to the girl, he saw that she had brought him a drink in a jar. To Kazumi, humans were strange creatures, and her mistress, Casey, also demanded milk coffee after taking a bath. The guy was shocked that this drink existed in this world. He immediately opened the closed drink can with interest, but after that, a foul and unpleasant smell came out of the jar. Coughing from the terrible smell, the guy had to quickly cover his nose. It turned out that the milk had already used up its time, so it smelled terrible. Kazumi also covered her nose from the unpleasant smell. She apologized to the guy, because milk coffee had been stored for 10,000 years. It seemed like a miracle to the guy that the jar was intact after so many years. After that, the guy wanted to go swimming in the hot springs again to refresh himself. There were quite a few pools in this place, so the guy thought to try out each of them, such as an electric pool, a milk pool, and a jacuzzi. The guy turned around and noticed a man standing behind him. It was Rhea. The girl, covered with one towel, looked at her master in embarrassment. Seeing her in only a towel, which barely covered her important body areas, The guy looked at the girl with confused surprise. With his eyes wide open, he told Ria that they had agreed to take turns swimming because the bathhouse was combined. The girl timidly replied that she was just thinking about her duty as a servant to rub the master's back. She looked down at the floor, flustered and drooping. The guy didn't want her to be sad, so he agreed to her proposal. Since that was the case, he would accept her help. There was nothing he could do. It just happened that way. This is only part of the girl's duties, there was no other meaning in it. The guy was embarrassed by the girl's presence anyway. But he couldn't stop thinking about it, no matter what. The sight of a girl helping him was too tempting. Yoji wasn't sure if he could take his eyes off the girl. While she was trying to douse him with water from the shower, the guy was looking at the mirror. He saw Ria's reflection in the mirror. This was noticed by the girl herself. Instantly, she turned her back to the guy and covered herself with her hands. Ria was confused by what he was watching. However, the girl thought of something else. It seemed to her that the guy had noticed her because her body was ugly. But Yoji refuted her self-deprecating words. He told her that, on the contrary, her proportions were very attractive. Inside, his words made him feel sick and ashamed. Ria was happy with what the guy said. She thanked the guy for his compliment. The girl never thought that she would be praised for such ugly body proportions. It turns out that in this world, most admired the small proportions of the body. In turn, for everyone, the large size gave the impression of stupidity, obscenity, and sloppiness. The guy realized that, in another world, the standards of beauty were different from his world. In any case, it didn't matter to him. He was a member of the club of lovers of large proportions of the body. Ria was culturally shocked that the guy was part of an unknown faction of lovers of large proportions of the body. It seemed to the girl that Master Yoji was a very kind gentleman. Therefore, she is surprised that he is in such a faction. She was trying to find out from the guy if his words were a joke or an improvisation to comfort her. After all, he had an outstanding literary talent. Upon learning that he was indeed a member of such a club, the girl was happy. It was an honor for her to meet him. Yoji was surprised that a large-scale faction was so unpopular in this world. He didn't even know how to convince the girl that he really liked her appearance. Then the girl asked him not to look at her until she gave him permission. Yoji agreed to her request and turned away from the girl. Ria, embarrassed, took out a bottle of gel. The guy felt a pleasant smell near him. Ria asked Rosa to order this body gel for her. It could only be obtained in the royal capital. The girl frothed up the gel. She told the guy that it was the beginning of her duty. At this time, there was the sound of a towel falling. The girl, left without clothes, touched her boyfriend's body. She applied the created foam gel to her body. The guy was startled by her sudden touch. The girl tried to apply foam on Yoji's back with her body. The same man was both shocked by her actions and deeply embarrassed. He looked at her questioningly with panic. The girl immediately drooped and became saddened by his movements. She thought that the guy was uncomfortable with her actions. With a sad face, she informed him that she thought Tom would be pleased. After all, he had told her that he liked her large body proportions. Ria still hadn't moved away from the guy, so he could feel the touch of her body. Yoji was very pleased. He was happy about it. The girl noticed his happy expression. Soon, she also noticed his reaction to touching her body. The guy was very confused by this. However, Ria did not pay attention to his embarrassment. She was so glad that her master liked her large body proportions. The girl hugged Yoji with happiness. The girl was beaming with happiness. Therefore, the guy no longer felt much embarrassment towards her and accepted all her actions. After Ria applied the gel to the guy's back, she asked Yoji for permission to rub the front of him. He was excited and confused by the request. The girl, not hearing his consent, was upset and again thought that he did not like her body. Because of her sadness, the guy needed to give his consent. But if a girl starts washing his front, then he probably won't be able to restrain his body's reaction to the pretty appearance of the girl. From this thought, the guy began to fantasize how he would enjoy himself with a girl of the elf race. He felt that they would then cross the point of no return. Yoji was worried about the girl, whether she would be okay after that. He was also worried that Ria didn't really like him. He was confident in her respect due to the fact that the guy was the only person on this planet. As far as he knows, the only reason she adored him was because he was human. The guy didn't know if she liked him as a person. Yoji, having thought about it, did not have time to give an answer to her request. Suddenly, Slimy screamed in the bathhouse. A little girl appeared in the room and appeared to them. She looked swollen and swollen. Slimy was uncomfortable. The guy approached Slimy and looked at her excitedly. Her unusual appearance alarmed Yoji, who did not understand what was wrong with her. The girl was sick. The nausea was becoming unbearable, and she was vomiting. The guy could only jump away from Slimy. The girl got rid of the water. It turns out that she drank too much water from the bathroom in which he bathed. Yoji remembered that when he was drinking water from the river, before Slimy appeared, she felt his human strength and approached him. Rhea picked Slimy up and carried her to her room. I should have helped the girl. The guy thanked her for her help. The girl, carrying Slimy, still hadn't recovered from the previous situation. She was ashamed and embarrassed for her actions, and she went to her room with a red face. After Rhea left with Slimy, the guy went back to the pool and rested alone in it. Yoji saw Rhea's face turn red. In the end, he realized for himself that it was impossible to do this with a girl. The guy felt both disappointment and relief. He joked in his mind that because of his uncertain actions, he would always be alone. While the others were in the hot springs, an incident was happening somewhere in the forest. The monster launched attack after attack at the girl. Her enemy asked the girl about the origin of her magic, which came from her body. He realized that the magic was exactly the same as that of the man. But the girl with the long black hair couldn't answer his questions. Breathing heavily, she tried to recover from his attacks. When the monster didn't get an answer, it only got angrier. Rosa was in great danger. Rhea, Slimy, and Yoji went outside. The weather was fine outside. A group of 3 people enjoyed the walk. Suddenly, the guy heard someone's soft sigh from behind him. Curiously, he looked back in the direction of the sound. He saw only bushes with lush green foliage. Together with Rhea, they removed the interfering foliage of the bushes with their hands. It turned out to be Rosetta. The girl with the long black hair was in a serious condition after being attacked by that monster. He was anxiously trying to find out if the girl was okay. Rosa woke up at his appearance and called out to him in a weak voice. After she called her master Yoji, the girl got hurt. Because of her actions, she had touched her wound again. The guy couldn't do anything, so Rhea approached Rosetta, put her on her lap, and began her help. The girl used healing magic to heal Rosa's wounds. The most serious wound was healed, leaving only a scar. Rosetta hugged Rhea tightly and thanked her for her rescue. The girl started rubbing her face against the elf's body, to which she only patted Rosa on the cheek, thereby stopping her obscene actions. Rosetta told them to leave. Dex, that's the name of that monster, is coming to this place soon. Everyone frowned at the news of Dex's arrival. Yoji was surprised by this information. After all, this monster knew who the guy was. Yoji realized that he was in an unpleasant situation. Rosetta informed them that she had met Dex in the village of Markov, which was 10 meters away from this place. The monster wandered in search of the magical power of humans. Soon he will find them. The guy was taken aback by Rosetta's words. Dex was looking for the power of people. He didn't understand why the man wanted his power. But Rhea interrupted him from his thoughts, and she called out to Yoji, who was lost in thought. The village of bears was in danger. After all, their village uses magic from Yoji's hair to restore it. It was likely that Dex would attack her. Yoji and Rhea ran headlong to the location of the village. The guy hoped that the village would survive, and his familiar villagers would be unharmed. However, as they approached the place where the village was located, they were greeted by a flickering flame that engulfed all the houses. The guy, breathing heavily from running for a long time, stared at the fire in horror, but suddenly, someone called out to him. It was a villager named Adai. Yoji knew him. Adai looked disheveled, and he could only sob with grief. Yoji approached the guy. He wanted to know his condition. The guy tearfully told him that he was fine. However, Mireia was abducted. Adai's tears did not stop flowing. The guy was overcome with immense grief from the loss of his village. A terribly big and strong animal man in the form of a cat attacked them. Yoji realized it was Dex. It was Mireia who absorbed the most human forces. That's why Dex kidnapped her. For the guy, the incident was unforgivable. The guy was angry that Dex had hurt so many innocent people. He clenched his fists so tightly in anger. Rhea noticed the guy's condition. Yoji asked the guy about where he might be. Adai informed Tom that Dex was in the village church. He also threatened the guy. Therefore, the guy tearfully apologized to Yoji and tearfully begged him to save Mireia. He wanted the girl to remain unharmed. Yoji told Tom not to worry about it. He would save Mireia. He then ordered Adai to evacuate all residents from the village. Adai accepted his order. Yoji, moving away from the guy at a distance, looked at his trembling hand. To be honest, he was terrified. However, he was the only person in this world. He must escape from this place. The guy was trying to calm down the trembling of his body and calm down. Rhea silently approached him. She gave the guy the ring. It wasn't just a ring, but a demon ring. Its effect is to weaken the magical powers. It will reduce the guy's strength by 1,000 times. The guy looked at her in disbelief. He did not understand why she had given him the artifact with the effect of reducing her powers. Rhea explained to him that if the master uses all his strength, the continent will sink. The guy was surprised by this news. The girl continued to explain in the case when the guy was wearing a ring, he could only remove the village. Yoji was shocked that even with the ring, he could destroy an entire village. Of course, it would be better for Rhea if he defeated Dex without using magic. The ring will be a safety net for the guy, in the worst case. Yoji confidently opened the doors to the church and went inside. Dex, noticing his presence, greeted him. The beast man was expecting a guy. He was looking forward to Yoji's appearance. Saliva dripped from Dex's chin, and he could smell the man's magic. Suddenly, someone called out to Yoji. It was Mireia. The girl was tied to a cross. She looked at the guy with relief and joy. Yoji examined the girl from afar for damage. Fortunately, the girl was unharmed. Enthusiastically, the guy reassured the frightened girl and told her that they would save her. Mireia calmed down after hearing his words. She looked with awe at the guy who came to her rescue. Unlike Yoji, who was overwhelmed by a huge amount of magic, Rhea was a combat expert for the famous Royal Knights. She would be able to handle Dex without serious consequences. That's why the guy didn't use the attack. He gave the command to the girl to attack. Rhea understood his order and began preparing for the attack. The girl, as a member of the elf race, could use magic. Several fireballs appeared in the air. Rhea, using the magic spell Flaming Bullet, launched an attack on Dex. Dex stared at their approach in surprise for a moment, but he regained his composure and grinned. The fireballs had a little distance left to attack the guy, but they soon disappeared. The guy and the girl looked at Rhea's failed attack with shock. It turns out that Dex had surrounded a barrier near his body that prevented the fireballs from damaging him. Rhea and Yoji were shocked by this. Dex used the anti-magic shield spell. Kazumi had the same shield. The guy understood the gravity of the situation. After all, somehow Dex could use human magic techniques. Rhea also noticed this. She informed the guy that Dex was able to gain more powers from the relics than the elf herself. Yoji started to put his hand in his pants pocket. The guy pulled out the ring that Rhea had given him. If the girl's attacks didn't help, then he would have no choice. The guy stopped at his own thought. He was looking at the ring that was on his palm. He didn't want to use it. Yoji calmly called out to the girl standing next to him. He ordered her to take Mireia with her and leave the building. The guy put the ring on his finger. It is decided, he will rush into battle. After his words, the guy turned his full attention to the opponent. He calmly awaited their next attack. The girl accepted her master's order. Instantly disappearing from her seat, she asked him to do his best to defeat their enemy. Rhea used her powers to fly up. She was trying to get to Mireia. That's what the beastly cat noticed. The girl landed on the wooden cross to which Mireia was tied. Rhea unleashed Dex's hostage with her fire magic. Suddenly, a beastman approached her from the side. He swung his arm with powerful sharp claws and attacked. However, the girl, holding Mireia in her arms, easily dodged. Rhea, carrying Mireia in her arms, managed to escape from Dex. She headed for the exit. The guy saw the girl leaving the church and his order was obeyed. Dex noticed the girls leaving, but he didn't care. After all, the beastman wasn't interested in them, he just needed a guy. Yoji was annoyed not only by the animal-like cat's actions, but also by his rude appearance. He couldn't stand old people like that, so the guy tried to introduce him as a beautiful girl. The guy in his head activated the filter of a beautiful girl. Immediately, the animal boy's appearance was changed to an attractive girl with cat ears. Even though the guy was trying to present his opponent as a seductive animal girl, but he couldn't filter her actions and words. Instantly, the attractive girl began to change into an animal-like monster who only wanted to eliminate the guy. Yoji felt unwell. Therefore, soon the filter of the beautiful girl was removed, and the terrifying appearance of Dex appeared in front of him again. He attacked the guy, but Yoji was able to dodge. The guy was lucky to react. If he had done it a second later, Dex was surprised that the guy was able to dodge. Yoji stood up and looked at his enemy, worried. Yoji wanted to use what Rhea had taught him to defeat Dex. Yoji, like Rhea, used the Flaming Bullet fire magic spell. However, compared to the girl, a fireball of enormous size appeared in front of him. The guy couldn't believe it. He stared in shock at the fireball he had created. Dex was surprised too. However, the Flaming Bullet was activated, so she headed for the beast guy. A stunning, powerful explosion thundered in the church. Yoji fell to the floor. He was shocked by the power of his magic, and he also put on a ring. The church was in a dilapidated state from the power of the blow. The guy thought it was a cooking spell. He remembered how Ria had used him for exactly that purpose. Yoji was amazed that he had only used 1/1000th of his strength. Suddenly, a malicious giggle sounded near the guy. It was Dex. He turned out to be unharmed after the guy's attack. The beastly cat praised the guy. Yoji looked at him in amazement. After all, he was able to withstand such a fireball of enormous size. Dex never thought that one day he would experience Inferno, the legendary fire magic. But that's what he expected from a human. The guy was embarrassed by the name of his attack. Dex, in a shabby state, reached into his trousers with his paw, trembling. He began to look for something in himself. Yoji didn't understand what he was doing. Although the monster didn't want to use it, it left him no choice. Soon, Dex took out a bottle of pills. With trembling hands, Dex poured the entire contents of the vial into his mouth. The enemy's entire body began to enlarge. Yoji was left staring wide-eyed at everything that was happening. Dropping to his paws, the huge animal-like cat approached the agitated guy. He was still shocked by what had happened recently. He thought Dex wanted to start a great monster war. The guy tried to use magic again. Without changing the magic spell, he attacked his opponent with a flaming bullet. The fireball approached his enemy, and explosions rang out again in the vicinity. However, although the guy did not miss, but Dex was not damaged. Yoji attacked with the flaming bullet magic spell again. But to his surprise, the ring couldn't stand his strength and broke apart. The Beastman started his attack on Yoji. He thought he would defeat him. Pinning the guy with his paw, Dex tried to dig his claws into the fragile human body. Yoji realized that he was in a difficult situation. The guy remembered Ria and Slimy, who were waiting for him. He was annoyed, because he had finally found the perfect place to live. Dex was surprised to notice that he would not be able to squeeze his paw and get his prey. He began to squeeze with effort. The Beastman wanted to deal with the guy already. However, at the same moment, Yoji, using his full strength, hit his opponent back, causing him to fly up a long distance. The guy didn't want to lose only the perfect place he had found and his company. Because of his punch, the guy flew into the air. Yoji regained his composure and dropped to the ground, bumping lightly. The guy immediately woke up. Turning in all directions, he looked for Dex. Suddenly, the fall of his huge opponent. The guy stared in amazement at the crater that had formed, in the middle of which was the opponent who had lost to him. Yoji realized that he had won. The girls ran up to the winning guy. They grabbed him in their arms. Ria apologized for not leaving the guy because she was afraid for the guy's condition after the explosion. Yoji was enjoying their hugs. He's happy that he could feel it. The guy became strong after he arrived in this world. It is possible that magic has significantly strengthened his physical body. Anyway, everything was fine. The guy looked at the worried girls in his arms with a smile. With his strength, he will be able to protect everyone. Yoji, delighted with the victory, hugged Maria and Ria in return. He was glad that they were okay. The girls were happy that the guy not only hugged them back, but also worried about them. Adai quickly approached the company. The guy was also happy that his sister was unharmed. The girl was saved. Adai wanted to get closer to Maria and hug her too. But she pushed him away from her, not giving him a hug. Mireia was outraged that he wanted to hug her, taking advantage of the situation. Adai was happy. He told the girl not to be shy about him, but Mireia did not stop her indignation. Yoji was embarrassed. He dealt with Dex. And now they're living a peaceful life again. Yoji and Ria awkwardly watched the frivolous exchange between brother and sister. Yoji helped the villagers to remove the remains of burned houses. Children were having fun around him. After a while, the tired guy landed on the grass to rest. Most of the work was already over. Dex attacked the bear village, but Slimy managed to put out the fire. Due to the properties of her body, she absorbed water into herself and destroyed the sources of flame. Yoji was called. It was Ria. The girl, holding a handkerchief in her hands, began to wipe the sweat on the guy's forehead. The guy helped rebuild the village with Ria. Dex attacked the village because of him, so he decided to take responsibility for the destruction. The guy gained strength to continue helping the villagers. Ria was admiring her handkerchief. She was glad that she was able to wipe the guy's sweat. Now the handkerchief was a memory of the guy. The girl brought the cloth closer to her face and began to inhale the remaining scent of the guy on the handkerchief. Yoji turned to her questioningly from her movements, but the girl immediately removed the handkerchief. The guy also remembered that he had destroyed the village's church with his magic, so he apologized, but they told him not to worry about it, the residents had already restored it. Moreover, they created a bronze statue of Master Yoji. From that day on, there were no other deities for them except Master Yoji. The guy was embarrassed by this. The royal guard, led by Rosetta, arrested Dex. Dex went overboard with the use of the relic, which affected his intelligence. He couldn't even talk. Now there's no need to worry about information leaks, but I felt a little sorry for him. The guy was worried about where Dex was able to get the relic from. Yoji had an idea about the existence of other people in this world. But the heavy thoughts disappeared, he was distracted by Slimy in his original form. Yoji relaxed and stopped thinking about it. He already had a lot of problems, but at least he dealt with Dex, so the quiet days are back. The next day, the guy woke up chained to his bed. He was left in only shorts, his limbs were shackled. The guy stared at the ceiling in disbelief. He didn't understand what was going on, when he suddenly noticed Kazumi sitting quietly next to him. Kazumi confirmed that she had chained the guy down. But Lady Ria was the one who ordered Kazumi to chain the master's body. Yoji didn't understand why Ria ordered Kazumi to do this. Soon, the girl he was discussing came up to them. The guy tried to find out from Ria why she did this to him, but she didn't come into the room alone. There were other girls with her. Mireia, Rosetta, and Slimy approached the guy lying on the bed and greeted him. Yoji was shocked by their presence. He still didn't understand what was happening. Therefore, with amazement at them, Ria informed the guy with a smile that they would have a training session that day, which she had already told him about earlier. The guy remembered that she had told him something, but he did not know the exact details. After all, at that moment he really wanted to sleep. Turning towards the girl, he asked the girl with some concern about his role in the training. Ria answered him with a reddened face. Yoji didn't have to do anything, just lying on the bed was enough. The guy was amazed at her words, why he didn't have to do anything. He still didn't understand what was going on. Ria started training. She kissed him. Now he understood what was going on. It wasn't a workout for him, it was for Ria and the other girls. The girls watched their whole process. Rosetta was jealous of Ria and was unhappy that she was absorbed by the guy. Soon, Ria interrupted the process of obtaining magic. Turning to the girls, she urged them to get to work. They wanted to increase their strength with this training, and at the same time, the guy's defense would also increase. It seemed to Ria that it was more effective than if they would train separately. The guy started fantasizing about all the girls, how he would train with them. He couldn't let that happen. Slimy suddenly came up to him and grabbed his hand. Upon contact with his skin, the girl's magical power increased, and because of this, she began to shine. Yoji was tickled by Slimy's touch, laughing as he tried to stop Slimy's effects on him. At the same time, Mireia was looking at him enthusiastically. If she kisses a guy, she'll pass out again, like last time, so she tried to find a different approach to him. Approaching the guy's body, she began to touch his skin in embarrassment. Her heart was pounding loudly from her actions. When suddenly the girl opened her eyes wide, she felt the magic of the guy increase her strength. Mireia was completely blissful from the incredible feelings of the magic that overwhelmed her. The girl felt pleasure from the process. To the embarrassment of the guy, Mireia began to touch the guy with great zeal. She wanted to always feel this bliss. Yoji tried to calm the agitated Mireia and Slimy. Rosetta was watching all this. The girl still hadn't approached the guy, but she wanted to feel touching where her beloved Ria was touching. However, she didn't want to kiss the guy. After all, her heart belonged only to her beloved Ria. That's why she can't kiss Master Yoji. Ria was enjoying the guy at that moment. But still, Rosetta had already touched Yoji and still remembered the feeling of bliss after receiving his magic. At this time, the guy couldn't stop laughing because of the ticklish feeling from Slimy and Mireia. He tearfully begged Rosetta to save him. However, the girl did not help him solve the problem. Bending down, she, along with the others, began to touch the guy. It was an order from her beloved Ria, and she couldn't disobey her. The guy was in a difficult situation for him. Their touch tickled him, which made Yoji laugh all the time from the ticklish sensations. Hopefully, he turned to the remaining girl. Yoji began to beg Ria to save him from the ticklish sensations. He wanted her to release him from captivity. However, Ria did not understand him and thought that he had asked for something else, namely, to kiss him again. The girl with flushed cheeks bent over the guy again and kissed him. After that, they all touched his body until they fainted from the overabundance of their powers. Kazumi praised his self-control. One warm day, while the guy was lying on the bed, Ria leaned over to him with reddened cheeks and kissed him. She looked at the guy excitedly after she kissed him. The girl was happy to be with him. Suddenly, a girl from the village of bears approached Yoji and Ria, who were lying there. Mireya called out to the guy. The girl with the bear ears asked the guy for permission to join them. The guy looked tired, but Yoji agreed to her request, to Ria's surprise. Mireya happily ran up to him. Approaching Yoji, she kissed him too. Ria was trying not to be jealous of the guy. Ever since he came to this world, the days have passed exactly like this. After contacting the guy, Mireya felt a surge of magic. As she thought, Yoji's relic is magnificent. Mireya felt a sharp increase in her energy in her body. The guy's biomaterial had strong magical energy. It looks like it can be used to strengthen other creatures. Thus, he strengthened his comrades. Therefore, he had nothing to be ashamed of. At the same time, Ria and Mireya attacked the guy. They wanted to kiss him again. The guy was taken aback by their pressure. However, he had to give in to them and receive every kiss. Because of the sound, Slimy and Kazumi were distracted from their hobbies. After a while, the beaming girls finally left the guy alone and went to breakfast. He was lying wearily on the bed with reddened lips after everything. Ria told Mireya not to forget to put the sample back after breakfast. The tired guy was attracted by her words. The guy was interested in what Ria said. He wanted to know what kind of sample it was and why they needed it. But Mireya, winking at the guy, only told the guy that it was a secret. Soon the girls left, leaving the perplexed guy. After breakfast, the guy lay back on the bed. For him, the best moment was to go back to sleep. Mireya's food was delicious. The guy could sleep whenever he ate such delicious food. When he was an ordinary office worker, he never imagined that something like this would happen to him. Suddenly, someone called out to him. It was Mireya. She wanted to go into the guy's room. When he found out that it was Mireya, he allowed her to enter. The girl opened the door without entering the room. She turned to her companion. Ria reluctantly refused to enter the room. Ria shyly entered the guy's room. The girl was dressed in a short and revealing maid outfit. The guy looked at Ria admiringly. She was amazing in this outfit. Mireya told him that she would sell this costume at the market in the capital next week. It was her new design. The guy really liked this outfit. Namely, the area between the skirt and stockings looked simply amazing. Even if everyone considers him a renegade, he will be part of the faction of lovers of short skirts. The guy was inspired by the girl's appearance. Slimy's voice distracted him from his feelings. She tugged on Yoji's sleeve to get his attention. It turns out that the girl was also dressed in a maid costume. The guy bent over Slimy, stroked her head and praised the girl. Slimy was glad of that. Although the maid costumes were cute, what kind of people would buy such a thing? Suddenly, the guy noticed a girl huddled in a corner. She turned her back on everyone and hid. Because of this, Mireya became agitated. Ria, with a reddened face, could not believe that she was wearing such a popular and beautiful dress. The guy realized that Ria had never worn such clothes before. Moreover, her proportions were unpopular in this world. Therefore, the guy praised the girl, telling her that this dress suits her perfectly. The girl looked cute in it. Ria, hearing his praise, stopped worrying for a minute. The girl was absorbed in the fact that she was cute in this outfit. Therefore, turning to Mireya, Ria enthusiastically tried to buy a maid costume from her. The girl wanted to give all the gold she had accumulated, if only she would sell her a dress. After all, she was attractive to Yoji in it. Mireya was shocked by her actions. She couldn't accept that much money. The guy thought that the girl just really liked the dress. After a while, Ria and Yoji were in the pool. A girl was rubbing the back of a guy lying on a soft mattress. The guy lay relaxed and enjoyed the girl's actions. He was very comfortable. She was glad of it. He ate delicious food, slept at his leisure, and was also helped with bathing. The guy knew that it was a luxury for him. However, something had happened recently that he was unhappy about. Ria noticed the guy's changed expression and asked him what had happened to him. He confessed to her that he had been feeling a certain dissatisfaction lately, making her think. She thought that Yoji was not satisfied in the love plan, namely in promoting their relationship. Therefore, the girl touched her towel, opened it, and happily showed her body to Yoji. But the guy found the answer to his problem. In fact, he didn't have enough adventures in his life. The girl, hearing his words, realized that she was mistaken. Covering herself, she asked the guy about his words. Yoji told her that he wasn't complaining about his life. However, what he meant was that after he entered another world, he wanted to see a lot of new places. But it wasn't such a good idea. After all, if someone finds out that the guy was a human, then he will have big problems. Ria, noticing the guy's mood, suggested that he go to the market in the capital next week. Yoji wanted to see Mireya's store. Therefore, if they find a way to hide the guy's hair and disguise Ria, it will be possible. The guy apologized for his selfish thoughts. However, the girl was not unhappy with his request. It was her duty to fulfill the wishes of the guy. Therefore, Ria wanted to get started as soon as possible in order to fulfill the guy's wish. The day of visiting the capital has arrived. On the street, the guy said goodbye to Kazumi and Slimy. They stayed at home. The guy and Ria went to the slope. Arriving at the place, they just stood and waited. Ria has prepared everything necessary for the adventure. The guy should like the surprise. Yoji was standing on the slope, waiting for their transport to arrive at the capital. A huge airship hovered above the heads of the girl and the guy in the high blue sky. The guy was amazed by the sudden appearance of the airship. The guy was looking up at the airship. He froze with his mouth open and his eyes wide in surprise. Suddenly, he noticed a black dot near the airship, but the dot turned into a creature. It turns out that someone jumped off. It was Rosetta. A girl with long black hair, falling down, smiled brightly when she saw Ria next to the guy. Yoji was stunned by Rosetta's unexpected appearance. With his mouth wide open, he stared at the falling girl. Ria was looking at the girl with annoyance. Rosetta, still falling through the air, was already a short distance away from Yoji and Ria. Rosa joyfully called out to her beloved sister. Approaching the cliff, Rosetta demonstrated a graceful landing near them. After descending from the sky, the girl immediately began hugging her sworn sister. But she didn't get a hug back from Ria, who was annoyed by her clinginess. The guy was surprised by Rosetta's rapid movements, because she had landed only a second ago. Ria pushed the girl away from her. A girl with black hair with a huge smile told Ria and Yoji to get on the airship. The guy didn't understand how they could get on the airship. After all, the airship was high in the sky. Rosetta told him not to worry about it and to leave the problem to her. The girl waved 2 fingers and used magic. The swirling wind near the guy's feet made Yoji rise and soar into the air. The guy could only cry out in surprise at the sudden upward rush. Yoji didn't understand what had happened. Rosetta answered the guy's question. It's air magic. She used it to lift and descend. After hearing the explanation, the guy realized that air magic was quite convenient for moving in space. Ria also said that if he had used this magic, Yoji would have lifted the entire continent to the stars. But the guy didn't know how to use this spell. Soon, they arrived at the airship and were able to enter inside. The guy found out that thanks to Rosetta, they were able to use the airship. After all, her family was one of the most influential in the capital. Yoji assumed that Rosetta was a young lady of aristocratic origin. He was wondering why the girl became a royal knight. Suddenly, Rosetta called out to the guy. The girl wanted to give Tom the prepared clothes, which he asked to prepare. They needed to change their clothes as they would be arriving in the capital soon. The guy was curious about Rosetta's situation, but he wanted to think about it later. They finally arrived in the capital. It's time for fun. The airship stopped at the Arverni mansions. The guy thanked Rosetta for a pleasant trip. The girl accepted his gratitude. She told them that she had received an order from the management. Therefore, she won't be able to go with them. Rosa hoped that they would like the capital. The guy and the girl were outside. They changed their clothes to hide their identities. Yoji hid his hair with a hat. Ria wore sunglasses and a hat to hide her identity. Walking down the street, the guy looked admiringly into the distance. An amazing, beautiful view was waiting for him ahead. Yoji saw the royal capital for the first time. Not only the architecture of the city was admirable, but also the lively appearance of the market attracted. Representatives of different races were in the royal capital. The guy, looking at them, realized that this was a world in which people simply did not exist. He needs to be careful. Ria started searching for something in her bag. She wanted to give something to the guy. It turned out to be a cloth bag filled to the brim with money. The guy, seeing a large amount of money, opened his eyes in surprise. The girl did not understand his shock. It wasn't like that for Yoji. The guy was stunned by the amount of money. He didn't know where the girl got it from. Ria informed him that most of the money in the bag was tribute, which was collected from the inhabitants of the village of bears. Their village was under the control of Yoji. Most of the village's income comes from the guy's relics, so it was okay to take a cut from them. The guy would never have thought that one day he would collect tribute. Therefore, realizing that it was a tribute from the village of bears, the guy wanted to consciously spend the money he received. Looking up, he noticed a man selling guns in the market. He was sitting on the ground, his weapon spread out on the blanket. The guy came up to him and sat down to take a closer look at the product being sold. He felt the fantastic feeling he was looking for. The old man asked him if he was an adventurer. The man looked at the guy, studying him. His deep and searching gaze took the guy aback for a moment. When he saw the man, he realized that he was more likely a dwarf. Yoji replied negatively to the old man. Then the guy thought about who he was. After all, he didn't really do anything in this world. When he suddenly came to his senses, he remembered about the seller. The old man told him that he couldn't be an adventurer with such a frail body. Therefore, the man could not sell him a weapon. He rudely tried to chase the guy away. Yoji was embarrassed. He just wanted to see the old man's goods. He probably interfered with the work of the seller. Ria resolutely approached the seller. Swinging her foot, she deliberately landed a blow right next to the seller's head. Ria was angered by the old man's rude behavior. Angrily, she informed the old man if he knew who Yoji was. He belonged to the oldest and strongest race. However, the girl did not have time to finish, as the guy covered her mouth with his hand. Yoji, holding the angry girl, told the salesman to just ignore them. After a while, having calmed down, Ria apologized to the guy. Yoji told her that it was okay because the girl just wanted to protect his honor. But the girl was still upset about the recent incident. She let the guy down and almost revealed his origin. Yoji, seeing the deeply saddened girl, wanted to cheer her up, so I offered her something to eat. It turned out that they were selling kebabs made from the larva of the Mamadala butterfly. It might have looked unsightly, but it had a creamy taste. The guy was embarrassed by this information. So he pointed to another stall with meat on a spit. The girl explained that it was a barbecue made from an orc child. Because of her explanation, the guy lost his appetite. Ria thought everything was fine. She wanted to buy him some food from these shops. But Yoji refused. He was no longer hungry. The guy asked the girl where she wanted to go. It had been a long time since she had been able to visit the capital. The guy wanted to thank her. The girl looked at Yoji with admiration because of the kind words of the guy. She wanted to go to a store she was interested in. Of course, it was a clothing store. They only sold underwear for girls. The guy realized that there were such shops in another world. Suddenly, Ria asked the guy to pick out and pick up her clothes from the store. She was embarrassed. It was her first time visiting such stores. Therefore, Ria did not know what to choose. Yoji didn't know much about this area either. But the guy couldn't refuse the girl. He saw clothes with a mature design, but it didn't suit Ria, as she had a great figure for it. Ria thought Yoji liked this design, but he remained silent out of embarrassment. The girl thought sadly that he didn't like this design. Yoji admitted that he didn't like this style. Therefore, Ria offered her master other styles. The girl showed the first style of underwear. The guy said that these clothes were suitable for Ria. The girl immediately bought it. The second style of underwear was more closed compared to the first. The guy liked the clothes too, so Ria bought it. After buying the clothes, Ria thanked Yoji. In the end, she bought everything that the guy liked. The girl was excited that he was carrying packages. But the guy wanted to thank the girl, so he told her not to worry about it. Then they went to the hotel that Ria had chosen. Soon, the guy and the girl approached the building. The girl informed the guy that they would stay at this hotel for the night. The entrance of the building was unusual. The lighting consisted of heart-shaped lanterns. It was a love hotel. Yoji could only stare wide-eyed at the hotel the girl had chosen. Ria looked at the guy with embarrassment. She bought clothes for the night. After a while, they entered the room of the love hotel. The room was decorated in pure pink. There was only one double bed. Ria explained to the guy that all the luxury hotels were under the patronage of important people. Therefore, it was best to hide in this hotel. Yoji was surprised when Ria brought him to this hotel. But if the girl had told him the truth, then he thought it was better to stay in this place. Just because they would share the same bed didn't mean that inappropriate feelings should appear between them. That's what the guy thought. However, when they were about to go to bed, Ria suddenly started lifting the bottom of her dress. The girl took off her dress completely, remaining in the clothes she bought at that store today. She stunned the guy with her actions. Ria, I pretended that I hadn't done anything wrong. She explained to the guy that she just wanted to show him the clothes she bought today. The girl began to turn around, thereby showing herself from all sides. Yoji was able to take a full look at the girl. He nervously swallowed his saliva. Feeling overwhelmed, the guy quickly approached the girl. Ria could only flinch in surprise at his sudden approach. Yoji was excited by the sight of the girl. He hugged her. The clothes fit Ria perfectly. Bending down to the girl's ear, he sweated and blushed all over, confessed to the girl that he would no longer be able to restrain himself. Ria has finally achieved her goal. She was glad that Yoji was finally interested in her. She smiled sweetly at the guy with flushed cheeks. The guy realized everything. From the lingerie store to the love hotel, Ria has planned everything. Yoji began to help the girl. He diligently tried to unbutton her outerwear. If Ria wanted this, then he needed to be a man. Ria lowered him down to the floor between the guy's legs. His whole face turned red from her actions. The girl wanted to start the service. Smiling sweetly at Yoji, the girl began to provide the guy with a honey trap. The guy could only tremble from the pleasant and incredible sensations. It was his first time. While the girl skillfully brought pleasure to the guy, Yoji said goodbye to his first time. He no longer cared about the consequences. The guy just wanted to give in to his desire and pleasure. Yoji was blissful. The next day, as soon as the sun's rays entered the room, the birds could be heard singing early in the morning. The guy stared speechlessly at one point. He was in a drooping and dejected state. The guy, in the end, couldn't accept losing his first time. Perhaps because of all the human relics, his biomaterial had the most magical power during the process. Therefore, Ria, having received the guy's magical power from touching the biomaterial, lost consciousness. The girl who could kiss a guy for 10 minutes in a row instantly fainted, thus leaving the guy alone. While the guy was thinking about his recent failed experience, the girl woke up from a faint. Ria called out to Yoji. The girl felt upset and guilty about yesterday's incident. Ria apologized to Yoji. She was hopeless. Yoji only smiled and comforted the upset and saddened girl. He told her that they would gradually get used to it. The girl was touched by the guy's words. With tears in her eyes, she looked at him admiringly and reverently. The long-awaited final exam for the first-time loss program has been postponed. After waking up, the guy began to enjoy spending the day with Ria. A guy and a girl went outside for a walk. They were surprised by the large number of people in the capital. On this day, it turns out, a fair was held in the royal capital, which happens every 2 years. The guy was amazed by this information from Ria. Yoji was walking with Ria, but suddenly a girl called out to him, drawing his attention to himself. It was Mireia. The girl, who was a short distance away from the couple, waved at Yoji. Yoji saw that it was his friend. He wanted to approach a girl he knew, but noticed a queue of staggering length near her shop. Yoji looked at her in shock. The guy had heard that Mary's clothes had become quite popular. However, he didn't think that there would be so many people. Mireia told Tom that there are many brands more popular than her. Experienced couturiers from all over the kingdom gathered here on this day. Mireia wanted to contribute to this fair. It was her first step towards becoming a designer in the capital. Yoji noticed that Mireia seemed to be doing her best. The guy and the girl saw the maid costume that Slimy and Ria were wearing. Mireia thanked Ria. Because of her, this outfit was selling well. This outfit has become popular among many girls. Although the baby sizes didn't sell as well as she expected, Yoji thought he would be worried about this world if they were selling well. Suddenly, an unknown man rudely called out to the seller. The unknown man, after his rude call, pushed the guy painfully with his shoulder, forcing Yoji to step aside a bit. The man looked at them arrogantly. He asked me to sell all the baby-size outfit sets that were in the store. Mireia and the girl selling Mireia's clothes felt uncomfortable. The man burst into their room without waiting in line. Therefore, the girl wanted to solve this problem. But the man, not listening to her words, just shouted at her, calling her rude names. Yoji was worried about the rude customer. The man's knight informed everyone that he was the Marquis of the kingdom's capital, namely, the Marquis of Cyber Redstar. After he was introduced, Cybern arrogantly wanted to continue his purchase. Ria knew the Marquis of Kyburn. The guy looked at the girl questioningly. He wanted to know about this rude man. He was a famous noble from the capital. It was rumored that he kidnapped commoners on a whim and laughed at them. Cyber was a bad person who abused his power. Yoji was just horrified by this information. He was angry, but in order not to endanger his comrades, he couldn't interfere with the Marquis's interest. Mireia was anxiously and cautiously putting the Marquis's purchases into a bag. Cyber was attracted to the girl. Therefore, the man grabbed her by the hand and pulled the frightened girl to him. Yoji and Ria were shocked by his actions. The guy and the girl immediately became tense from the situation. The Marquis, pulling the girl to him, began to brazenly examine her with his obscene gaze. Upon his close inspection, he appreciated the beauty of Mireia. Cybern liked her. Therefore, he wanted to take possession of her. The man informed the frightened girl that she would become his from that moment on. After he told the girl that she would become his property, Cyber Redstar brought Mireia closer to him and began to brazenly and shamelessly touch her. The girl started crying from fear and fright. She wanted to be free of the man's touch. Yoji, seeing the frightened girl, was angry. He wanted to save her from the Marquise, but Ria's hand stopped him. Ria told the guy that she would take care of the situation. Yoji better stay behind so as not to reveal his identity. The girl did not have the same blush on her cheeks. Ria was tense all over, and she looked at Cyburn with angry and gloomy eyes. The guy, seeing such a condition in a girl for the first time, was taken aback. However, when he came to his senses, he faded into the background as Ria told him. Ria ordered Tom to let Mireia go and not touch her. However, the latter, without stopping his actions, was surprised by the audacity of the girl who appeared in front of him. Seeing that Marquis Redstar didn't let Mireia go, Ria repeated her words once more. That only made Cyber angry. He was angry that some unknown girl was ordering him around. Pulling out his sword completely, the man swung it at the girl. He wanted to show her her place. However, she dodged his attack. The girl dodged and began to take off her glasses and hat. All the things hiding her identity were thrown aside. After she took off her glasses and hat, the Marquis looked at the girl in front of him with shock. The man was familiar with this girl. With horror and shock, he uttered her name. It was the demon warrior Ria. The girl glared at him angrily. Yoji saw everything that was happening, as the Marquis became worried after recognizing Ria. The guy was worried that the man could recognize Ria, but soon he was attracted by a whisper near him. The girl standing next to the guy said the name Ria. Many in the crowd began to discuss Ria admiringly. Ria was the youngest woman in history to command the Royal Knights. She was more popular than Yoji thought. The Marquis, seeing the excited crowd at the girl's appearance, was angry. Even if she was a knight, she is still the daughter of a commoner. A girl can't stand up to him, the Marquis. Therefore, the angry Cyber ordered his knights to teach the girl a lesson. His subordinates immediately accepted the man's order and began to move towards Ria. One of them swung his sword and tried to attack the girl. However, she disappeared instantly. Surprised, the guy started looking for her. Ria won't even have to use the power that Yoji gave her. The girl flew up with the help of magic and appeared to the surprise of the knight on his sword. The girl looked at her opponent with a gloomy look. She told his subordinates not to get upset. They were just serving the wrong master. After her words, the girl instantly jumped with the help of the support in the form of a sword. She knocked out the knight with a swing of her foot. After defeating him, Ria turned her attention to the Marquis's other subordinates. She was rushing towards them. With quick strokes, she instantly overpowered all of the man's subordinates. The Marquis of Kyburn was left alone in front of Ria. The man still believed in the power of his status. Panicking, he tried to order the girl to obey him. However, Ria only silently looked at the Marquis with her gloomy and serious gaze. Although the man was scared of Ria, he was still trying to subdue her. The Marquis, enraged, lost his fear of the girl. He verbally attacked her, threatening that the whole world would be against Ria. But it didn't matter to her. From the very beginning, Ria decided that she would always follow her master Yoji. The girl was confident in her decision, so she was ready for it. The Marquis of Cyber realized that his threats did not work against the girl. Now that he realized his position, he was afraid of her. The man tried to defend himself with his friend, Kazul, the commander of the Royal Knights. But the girl had already launched an attack. Cyber wanted to get out of this situation. He threatened the girl again. If she attacks him, then with the help of his friend, he will change her position as a knight. However, Ria was not afraid of his threats and hit the arrogant and terrible Marquis with all her might. The girl took out her anger on him with this blow. From her attack, the man flew away from his place, hitting 3 times like a stone on water. Ria informed him that her place would always be next to the master. Yoji looked at the girl with admiration. She was beautiful at that moment. The guy was touched by her words. Suddenly, he was distracted by a sound. The crowd, watching everything, was excited and happy about the victory over Cyber. They admired the girl. Worried, Mireia ran up to the girl. She thanked Ria for her rescue and for dealing with the creepy Marquis. The girl hugged Ria and was still thanking her. Mireia was crying from her overwhelmed feelings. The recent incident had scared her seriously. Suddenly, someone called out to Ria. A representative of the elf race warned the girl, informing her that the knights had heard the noise and were heading in their direction. Yoji realized that they were in a difficult situation. If the knights see the Marquis's unconscious body, they will think that Ria has betrayed them. The crowd of representatives of different races began to persuade the girl to run away. They wanted to help her avoid being caught by the knights, so they hurried the girl away from the scene. They were happy and grateful to the girl for teaching Kyburn a lesson. Yoji was happy for the girl. So many residents adored her. The guy felt a change in his position. It turns out that the girl picked him up like a princess. Ria thanked everyone with a smile. Yoji was embarrassed by his situation. A crowd of residents saw Ria carrying a guy in her arms. They wanted to see her lover's face and wished her happiness. While the girl, holding the embarrassed guy in her arms, was trying to move away from the scene, someone was looking at them from the roof. An unknown person noticed that Ria's magic power was undoubtedly human, which meant that the guy who was in her arms was a human being. They finally found the one they had been looking for, Amazaki Yuji. The one who was looking at them was the guy in the black cape. He was wearing a mask that hid the upper part of his face. There were also patterns painted on his cheek. There was a girl next to him. A girl with 2 long tails. Her distinctive feature was the wings on her head. The guy's companion did not understand who from the crowd was the same Yoji. Yoji's study of the capital has been completed. High in the sky, an airship with Yoji, Ria, and Rosetta was slowly flying. While the girls were chatting, he was looking out the window at the beautiful view. A lot happened to them in the capital these days, but it was fun. His relationship with Ria has also progressed significantly. The guy dreamily recalled what happened to him in the Love Hotel. Suddenly, the guy remembered something. He wanted to know where Ria had gone out last night to sort something out. It turns out that the girl went out last night to get rid of the cyber soldiers. The guy was just speechlessly surprised at how calmly Ria informed him about this. Rosetta informed Ria that there were more than 100 soldiers in the villa of the Marquis of Kyburn, so she had to deal with them. Rosa was happy to help Ria. Now, the Marquis of Cyber Red Star is unlikely to decide to take revenge and harm them. The girl quickly dealt with such problems. Yoji asked his companion if everything was alright with her. Ria looked at the guy with incomprehension. She did not understand what he was talking about. In fact, the guy was just worried about the girl, because of yesterday's incident, she won't be able to be a royal knight anymore. The girl was not upset by the situation. Changing her position was not a problem, because her place was next to the master. The girl said this to the guy and smiled sweetly at him. She was happy with him. Yoji looked at the girl in awe. Ria's words touched him. Saying the girl's name tenderly, the guy leaned over to Ria to kiss her. But the kiss didn't happen. They were stopped by Rosetta's presence. She glared at the guy and the girl with her sullen gaze. Rosetta, still looking at them, is unhappy, told Ria and Yoji not to do anything shameful. Bringing her face closer, she threateningly told them not to do it in her presence. The girl glared at them. Ria and Yoji excitedly turned away from each other. They apologized to the angry Rosetta. The girl with the long dark hair was angry because of her envy of Yoji. He was able to kiss her beloved sworn sister. At the same time, a distressed and angry sigh sounded in one manner in the royal capital. It was the Marquis of Kyburn. The man was angry with the girl. He will never forgive her. His resentment towards her will never go away until he forces Ria to pay him back for her actions. The man was trembling all over with bursting anger. He didn't know what to do. After all, most of his soldiers became incapacitated after Ria dealt with them. Suddenly, a guy in a raincoat suddenly appeared in the Marquis's office. The Marquis of Kyburn was startled by the appearance of an uninvited guest. It was the man from the roof. While the knights stood in a defensive stance to attack the guy, he introduced himself to the Marquis as Grace. Grace told Kyburn that he was just a lowly demon. Red Star was surprised to hear that he was a demon. Demons like this guy rarely appear, and little is known about them. The man knew only one thing about demons, which everyone knows. They had a hatred for other races. Therefore, the Marquis angrily rose from his chair and ordered the frozen soldiers to expel the demon that appeared. However, the guy did not budge. He was not afraid of the soldiers' approach. After all, he wasn't the one they were going to fight. The guy in the black raincoat and mask turned to his companion standing behind him. She will be the one dealing with the knights. The man called out to the girl approaching ahead. Her name was Kanan. The girl responded to the guy's call. The knights did not expect that their opponent would be a little girl. But then they took their excitement away, because they had to follow orders. The men swung their swords. However, they did not injure her. The girl instantly disappeared from their field of vision. It was Kanan's turn to attack them. The girl appeared behind them with lightning speed and began to strike at them from behind. Kanan attacked the knights, sending her opponents flying several meters away. The force of the girl's punch was surprisingly powerful. The knights flew through the entire office of the Marquis and smashed the wall of the room. After the girl's attack, a huge hole appeared on the office wall. The Marquis looked at it with a cold sweat. The man was trembling with fear. He was scared by the girl's strength and stunned by her. Marquis Kyburn wanted to reach for his weapon. However, immediately the guy in the raincoat informed him not to do it. He didn't want to continue fighting any further, it would be a waste of time. The masked demon explained to the Marquis who the girl was. Kanan was a member of the vampire race, so she was strong. The Marquis realized his position. It was said that vampires were the strongest representatives of demons. Cyber Redstar wanted to find out from the demon who came to him what he wanted from him. The guy told his interlocutor not to worry. They could help Marquis Redstar get revenge. Cybern looked with dislike and disbelief at the bottle that appeared in front of him. The man wanted to know what was in the bottle. The pills were called DD. The guy informed him that, with their help, the Marquis would be able to gain the power of humans. If Cybern cooperates with Grace, the demon will give him one pill. The man, although attracted by the guy's words, did not trust him. Therefore, the Marquis couldn't just trust the words of a guy who was a member of the demon race. However, the guy stuffed the pill into the Marquis's mouth, thereby silencing him. The man could only swallow the pill. After he did that, the guy let Cybern go. Cybern fell to the floor after swallowing the pill. Soon, the sound of clothes tearing could be heard. The muscles of the man increase in size, and the veins swell. Kanan silently and calmly looked at what was happening with the man. The Marquis got all the power from taking the pill. He initially had no right to refuse this deal. The demon wouldn't let that happen. The weather was fine outside. Slimy, after walking outside, returned through the cave to the house. Rhea wanted to know if Yoji liked the breakfast she had prepared. The guy praised the girl's food. Slimy was happily eating her breakfast. He also noticed that the girl had changed the food supply. She was even more beautiful this time. Rhea thanked the guy for his praise. Rhea has always believed that medieval dishes are not very tasty. Therefore, she used Mireya's food as a guide. Rhea worked hard. Something caught Yoji's attention. He noticed how the girl was tensely trying to open the jar she had received from Adai. But Rhea couldn't open it. Although Rhea was a knight, the first thing the guy noticed was that she was a girl. Yoji took the jar from her and wanted to open it for her. Yoji was trying to open the jar. He was twisting the lid. But after a while, the guy even started straining to open the jar. He was surprised that the jar wouldn't open in any way. The guy thought that Adai had given them some kind of defective jam. The girls watched as he tried to open the jar. Rhea was worried that he couldn't open it. Putting his hand on the lid, the guy wanted to open it this time. With all his anger and strength, he tried to turn the lid. However, he did not calculate his strength and crumbled the jar because of this. The jam shards flew in all directions. The guy looked at his empty hands in shock. Rhea excitedly ran up to Yoji and wiped the scattered jam with a towel. But the guy was fine. He thanked the girl for her concern and wanted to ask Rhea a question. The guy wanted to know if he could be extremely strong. The guy was still in shock from being able to break the jar with just his hands. Hearing his question, the girl was confused for a moment and could not find the words to answer. But then she came to her senses. The girl realized that he had seriously considered himself an ordinary guy before. Yoji was the strongest in the world for her. Rhea won't be able to reach even a quarter of his strength. The guy still has a strong image of the time when he was a weak person in his original world. But in the end, he didn't feel like he had become stronger. Rhea realized that the guy wasn't aware of his power. Yoji thanked Slimy. When he was fighting Dex, Yoji was in a difficult position. The guy felt his physical abilities suddenly increase. Rhea explained to the guy that, most likely, his body-strengthening magic could have been triggered. The guy didn't know about such magic. The name spoke for itself. It was a body-strengthening magic. There are two ways it can be triggered. In the first case, it works spontaneously, and in the second, when the caster is in a difficult position. The last time this magic probably worked was when the guy wanted to open the jar. Yoji was embarrassed. The magic activated when he just couldn't open the jar. Slimy got tired and yawned. Rhea told Yoji that he would adjust to the spontaneous type when he mastered this magic. Of course, she had no doubt that her master would be able to blow away mountains with minimal effort. Slimy returned to her original form. The guy, after hearing the girl's explanation, made a decision. From that moment on, he will start training and master this magic. Suddenly, a long drawn-out sound was heard in the corridor. the attention of the guy and the girl was attracted to the noise. Rosetta was making that sound. She was trapped at the entrance. The little slimes attacked her, leaving a trail of slime on the girl. Her limbs were immobilized by vines. The guy with reddened cheeks looked at the helpless girl who was trapped. Soon Rosetta noticed the guy with the others. The girl verbally attacked the guy with resentment. She wanted them to hurry up and free her. Yoji asked Slimy to rescue Rose from the trap and give her the clothes. Tired, Slimy regained her human form and returned her clothes. Rosetta shyly put her armor back on. The girl was annoyed that she was left without clothes every time she arrived at this place. Yoji had told her that the unexpected guests would be neutralized as soon as they were found. Rosetta even felt sorry for the future unexpected guests. Rosetta remembered that when she was with Ria, this did not happen to her. Suddenly, the girl noticed Ria's unusual behavior. She was completely absorbed in her fantasies. The thought of playing with a guy using slippery slimes made the girl blush. But she immediately woke up from her obscene fantasies. Because I felt the eyes of the others on me, Ria pretended that nothing had happened and decided to change the subject. The girl asked Rosetta about her plans for the day. Rosa started taking something out of his bag. Rosetta's father gave her this fragrance, which he found in the country on the eastern island. The girl wanted to share it with Ria. The girl took out a jar of dark liquid. The guy, seeing the thing in his hands, was surprised. With rapt eyes, he looked at the contents in the jar. To his surprise, there was soy sauce in it. Soy sauce existed in this world. The food in this world was not heavily salted, so he longed for the taste of soy sauce. Seeing Rosetta's happy face, Ria accepted Rosetta's gift and thanked the girl. Then the guy and Rosetta went outside. The girl was conducting a magic training. He was serious about mastering his power. The guy was looking forward to today's lunch. Lunch soon arrived. There was already a dish made with soy sauce on the table. Rosetta and Yoji looked at the dish with admiration and impatience. Rosa was happy that she could taste the food prepared by Ria. Ria made a dish of vegetables from the bear village and fried foods from the smaller orcs. Yoji and Rosetta happily started eating. The guy tasted the dish and tasted the soy sauce. It had been so long since he'd tasted that sauce. But the guy stopped. The food was different from his expectations. It was too salty and had a damp smell. Rosetta got angry at the sight of the guy's unsatisfactory expression. Because of him, Ria was upset that she had cooked a tasteless dish. But to be honest, the taste wasn't very good. That's why the guy couldn't enjoy lunch. Yoji asked the girl about the fragrance she had brought, but the girl didn't know anything about soy sauce. It was nanpura, a traditional food flavor in Eastern countries. In other words, it wasn't soy sauce, but fish sauce. Fish marinated in salt. The guy asked Ria about the soy sauce. However, she had never heard anything like it either. Even if Ria didn't know about soy sauce, it probably meant that it wasn't created in this world. The guy thought about it. Suddenly, an idea came to him. If soy sauce didn't exist in this world, then he could just create it. If he can create soy sauce, Ria will definitely be happy. The guy with the slimes left the house and went outside. He will call this plan an incomparable strategy for spreading soy sauce in this world. Yoji spoke his thoughts out loud. Because of this, Slimy was silently staring at the guy with a strange look, making her blush and blush all over her face. Yoji went down to the bear village, where he met Adai. The guy asked Adai for a bag of soybeans. He gladly gave them to him. Then Yoji, having received soybeans, put them in one container, added a little salt there and filled everything with water. The guy stared at the container of soy sauce in silence. No matter how you look at it, what he cooked was just a mixture of soybeans soaked in brine. He had no idea how to make soy sauce. Therefore, the guy only hoped that some kind of chemical reaction would occur with soybeans. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door, startling him. The guy closed the container with a lid. He couldn't let Ria see it. Then he opened the door for the girl. The guy was looking at her with excitement. It was almost time for a bath, so Ria came to him. Yoji left the room. He did not notice how time flew by and it was time for bathing. The guy wanted to bathe, as he had worked hard today. Someone called out to the guy. It was Rosetta. She resolutely informed the guy that she would join Ria and Yoji in the bath. The guy could only stare at the unhappy girl with wide-open eyes. Rosetta will go with Ria and Yoji to the bathing place. From this news, Ria could only dejectedly accept the presence of Rosetta in the hot springs. The girl, not fully pulling out her weapon, informed them that she knew that Ria was washing the guy's back every day. She was jealous of the guy. The guy saw her sworn sister every day, so she also helped him. Rosetta grabbed the guy by the collar. But her further actions were prevented by Ria. The girl, frowning, pushed Rosa away from the guy and calmed her down. Yoji realized that he couldn't tell Rosetta exactly what had happened at the Love Hotel with Ria. His cheeks were flushed from the memory. Rosetta, staring at Ria with an ambiguous look, once again announced that she would go to the bathroom. The girl wanted to make sure that Yoji wouldn't do anything obscene towards Ria. The guy was worried about Ria. She was annoyed. However, she gave permission to Rosa to prove her innocence. Letting her watch is the fastest way. It would be pointless if she's really just going to keep an eye on it. She was happy about what she had done. After all, Rosetta will be able to see Ria without clothes. The girl was excited about the upcoming swim. Upon entering the hot spring area, Rosetta was stunned by the structure of the room. A huge number of different types of pools were located here. Compared to such a bathroom, the royal bath was just a puddle on the road. The girl enthusiastically examined the room. Ria warned the girl that now is not the time to rest. Their duty is to wash the master's back. At the same time, the girl began to take off her clothes. But Rosetta was not up to the girl's words. She was absorbed in looking at her exposed skin areas. Ria's seductive appearance made Rosa's nose bleed. It was the kind of body Rosetta dreamed of. In her visions, Ria looked like a divine being. Rosa was delighted with what she saw. Ria immediately covered herself with a towel from the girl's gaze. Even though they were girls, Ria was ashamed to show naked in front of others. Rosetta, so that Ria would not be embarrassed by her, also began to undress and take off her armor and clothes. Left in her underwear, Rosetta began to approach the girl. She wanted to see Ria's body again. Ria used magic and created a shield of ice, thus preventing the girl from approaching her. The girl with the dark hair noticed Yoji's confused gaze on her. That made her look gloomy for a moment. Turning her back on the guy, Rosetta told him not to look at her like that. Yoji immediately nervously turned away and apologized. Rosetta was saddened and upset by his actions. She was sad because she thought that the guy considered her unattractive because of her large proportions. Yoji looked at the upset girl. He remembered that Ria had been exactly the same before. The elf also had a complex about her large proportions. But Ria didn't let Rosetta feel sad. She went up to her and told Rosa that there was nothing to worry about. After all, the master loved just such sizes. The girl, having said this, smiled and winked at Rosetta. Rosa was stunned by this information. She turned back to the guy and immediately got an obscene look from the guy in her direction. Without a doubt, Rosetta felt Yoji's gaze on her. Therefore, embarrassed, she covered her body with her hands. The girl, again turning away from the guy, asked him not to look at her body. Yoji had expected such a reaction from Rosetta. Soon they entered the bathhouse. Rosetta noticed the existence of the wine tub, and she admired it. Human civilization was indeed full of surprises. She started trying out different types of pools and was able to fully experience them. Eventually, Rosetta joined Ria and Yoji. A group of 2 girls and 1 guy thoroughly enjoyed the sauna. But Rosetta called out to the guy. She wanted to discuss something with him. Yoji, still enjoying the sauna, responded in a relaxed manner. Rosetta wanted to take some leftover warm water with her. She needed it because it contained a lot of the guy's magical energy. It could be used to make high-quality healing potions. The guy let her take as much as she wants. He didn't want to take anything from her and make a deal for the sake of water. They were friends, so he didn't need a reward from Rosetta. The girl got out of the water out of discontent. She didn't want to take something without a deal. However, the guy tried to calm her down and said that the deal was not necessary, as he had already considered the magnificent proportions of the girl's body. Rosetta looked at the guy with an uncomprehending look, but soon the realization came to her. The girl gasped and blushed completely. Yoji realized that he had said something he shouldn't have. Rosetta immediately plunged into the water to escape from the guy, but then she accepted the situation with indignation. If that's the case, then she won't think about the water deal anymore. After all, the guy was constantly looking at her body. Yoji was embarrassed by her words. The guy covered his reddened face with his hands. He was ashamed because he was watching without permission. Ria was unhappy with Rosa's actions. Night had fallen, and the stars were shining brightly on the night sky. The guy was in his room playing with the slime. Ria called the guy. In order not to bother the guy, she was silent until that moment. However, Ria could no longer turn a blind eye to Rosetta's behavior towards Yoji. The guy couldn't do anything about it. He wasn't worried about this situation. After all, the girl had sworn allegiance to Ria, not to him. However, when the formation guarding the master gets too big, the soldiers will start to obey orders less. The guy didn't know what they should do about this problem. Ria thought about this question. She told Yoji to temporarily listen and do what Ria says. Not knowing what would happen, the guy trusted Ria's words. They reached the door of the room. Rosetta was waiting for them there. Ria warned the guy not to make loud words under any circumstances. After saying that, the girl opened the door. Yoji and Ria entered the room. It was poorly lit, and it had a gloomy design. The guy noticed steam flying in the room. It smelled nice, but soon all thoughts of the smell disappeared from him. The guy was stunned by the view ahead. In the center of the room, Rosetta sat motionless in her nightgown. Her eyes were covered with a thick cloth, and there was a diffuser nearby, releasing pleasant steam. Rosetta heard someone enter. She called Ria and called her mean. The girl, fidgeting in her chair, couldn't take it anymore. So she impatiently urged the girl on, so that she could have fun with her and have a good time enjoying Rosetta. Rosa is sitting on a chair with her eyes and hands blindfolded, telling her sister to hurry up because she can't resist anymore. Ria stands behind Yoji Amazaki and tells her sister that she is ready. Ria tells her with a grin not to worry, because from now on she will give her a lot of love, Yoji Amazaki thinks, looking at her. What a scary face she has. Ria starts whispering to Yoji Amazaki. She asks him to kiss a rose, and he asks in surprise if it really sounds dangerous in such a situation. Meanwhile, Rosa keeps asking her sister to hurry up. Ria pushes Yoji Amazaki and whispers that she will take full responsibility for the consequences. This method is the only way for her to give in to him. Rosa sits and trembles with anticipation. Yoji Amazaki comes over and thinks, since it's Ria, she's probably already thought it all out, so he believes her. He bends down to her and feels her lips sucking him in with great force that he slides towards her and eventually touches her. Rosa thanks me several times. She says it feels so good inside her sister, she gets hot. Yoji Amazaki has already realized that it's all because of the fragrance. They repeat the process. Yoji Amazaki thinks it's an immoral game. Then Ria comes up to them and says that the time has come. She removes the blindfold from her. Both Yoji Amazaki and Rosa scream in shock at seeing each other in front of them. Rosa starts screaming at her sister that it's mean. Why did she treat her so cruelly? Yoji Amazaki stands there and still feels guilty about it, which is already painful in his chest. Ria tells her in a serious tone that it's for her own good. Rosa doesn't understand, and raises her tear-stained eyes. Ria says she can't rely on her alone to serve the master. The time has come when she has to end this. There is a bitter silence. Rosa lowers her gaze. Yoji Amazaki reflects that this is the whip of love from Ria. This is some kind of forced method. Ria asks Rose to understand that her master has already taken her heart, not her. She wanted a kiss from her master. Rose starts to tremble, trying not to cry. Rose shakes her head and shouts that she refuses because she only loves her sister. Then she stops abruptly, realizing something. She says with burning eyes that this is a test. Her sister is testing her love for her. So don't let her worry, she's got it all figured out. Ria swallowed. Ria turns to Yoji Amazaki and asks if he can kiss her again. If words have an effect on her, then it's useless. Yoji Amazaki approaches, takes off her blindfold and says it won't work. Ria looks at him questioningly. Yoji Amazaki apologizes to Ria and says that, in his opinion, Rosa will not change her mind even after all this. He says he thinks it's up to her to choose who she falls in love with. When Rosa hears these words, she begins to blush. Yoji Amazaki thinks that they could have solved the problem with Rose's devotion in another way, and they went a little overboard. Rose gets up and shakes everything off her lap. Yoji Amazaki respects Rose's feelings towards Ria. He tells Rose that he is sorry. Ria sighs and looks down. Here, Rosa comes up to Yoji Amazaki and asks him to turn to her. As soon as he turns his head, she sweetly kisses him on the cheek. Everyone is in shock, especially Ria. Yoji Amazaki stands with a red face. Rose tells him that from now on he can call her Rose. She says with a grin that she has already become close to him, so he can call her that, and then leaves, asking not to misunderstand her. She believes that men are rude, cruel, and can only think with their lower bodies, the worst creatures that exist, but in her opinion, Yoji Amazaki is not like that. She turns around and warmly tells him that she has somehow changed her mind about him. She smiles at him, and Yoji Amazaki thinks to himself that the process was strange, but there is progress. Rose turns around. She goes with hugs and says that now the three of them will love each other. When they kiss each other, there will be twice as much happiness. She reaches out to Ria, who backs away in fright. Yoji Amazaki says that he's glad to see that they get along with each other, so he thinks that if the three of them get along, it won't be so bad. He adds that he will also be able to absorb the relics faster. Ria sighs and says that she understands if the Lord says so. Rosa puts her finger on Yoji Yamazaki's lips and presses, asking if they can continue where they left off. Ria looks at her behavior in horror. She says that, to be honest, she was holding back earlier. Ria shouts to Rose that this is so unfair, how many times has she already kissed the gentleman, and she asks how about doing it at the same time. She means all three of them. The girls slowly approach Yoji Yamazaki. He asks in a panic if he really agrees now, but his heart is not ready for this. He falls on the bed in shock, and the girls say that they can be his partners at the same time. They say that they will do Mr. Yoji Yamazaki very well. Ria thinks that she won't lose to Rose. Yoji Yamazaki wonders if it's because of the long relationship. Their coordinated actions were perfect, and now he has nothing to regret. Morning comes. Yoji Yamazaki wakes up and yawns for a long time. He wishes good morning to his slime, and thinks to himself that yesterday he had an amazing experience. Ria is lying next to him. Rose knocks on their door and wishes Mr. Yoji Yamazaki a good morning. He says the same thing and asks if she has already woken up. She replies that she is, and that she is returning to the royal capital today. Rose says she feels a little lonely breaking up with her sister, but she has missions. Yoji Yamazaki says he asked earlier, but why is she so worried about Ria? Then he awkwardly adds that if she doesn't want to talk about it, then don't. Rose says with a smile that he's right, she doesn't mind talking about it with him. She lies down under the blanket next to Ria. 5 years ago, in the Arverni family, a girl tiredly says how disappointing it is. The man lies on the ground and trembles with impotence. Little Rose, who is 12 years old, asks if this is the adventurer. The servant is worried. She asks her to stop, because the competition has already ended. Rose arrogantly says she understood that. She says that she doesn't want to waste her time on this little fry. The man abruptly stands up and shouts at her that she should respect the poor. He uses his fireball and directs it towards Rose, who uses a defensive edge. The fire is reflected and flies back to him. He screams that it can't be that someone her age has such a high level of magic. The fire hits him so hard that his wig flies off his head. The servant asks Rose to keep in mind that after lunch she meets the son of the Ruibuster family. She tells her that she understood. Rose says with a sigh that she just wasted so much time on it, meaning on this adventurer. She used to be interested in sword training rather than being the perfect daughter-in-law. When girls her age had tea parties, she practiced the art of magic. She wasn't like the other girls. In front of the mirror, the servant tells her while brushing her hair that she wanted to ask her something. Is she really not interested in men? Rose proudly replied that it was true. She was not interested in these rude and cruel creatures. Even if her father said otherwise, she still would not change her mind. She turned down all her suitors. She was nicknamed Mad Dog Rose 2 years after that. She rebelled against her parents and joined the Knights of the royal capital. Everyone is thinking and discussing whether the Arverni family might want to get rid of the rabid dog. As she walked, she thought that it didn't matter who said what, she didn't care, because she was finally free. She had always hated the life of a daughter of a noble family. After all, the future, she had to get married. And this was just diplomacy. To avoid one where she has to do what men want, she chose the path of the sword. In the guild, a huge man approached her and brazenly asked her to let him have fun with her. And she smiled as if she had been waiting for this, asking if he really wanted to be beaten so badly. Living as a knight is just cool. Her age and family aren't important. To become a knight, she doesn't need to be a noble or anything. All that matters is her sword skills. When men are inferior to her swordsmanship skills, it brings her incredible pleasure. And then, when the rumors about Mad Dog spread throughout the Order of Knights, she met someone. This person turned out to be a sister. Ria approaches her and asks if she is Rose from a noble family. She offensively replies that she is Ria, the captain of the 7th Regiment. Ria reports on the Knights Captain's order. Starting today, she will be a member of their regiment. Rose replies to her that she heard her clearly and clearly. But unfortunately, she has no desire to work for someone who is weaker than her. Ria just smiled at her then. She throws her a sword, but Rose doesn't understand what it is or what it's for. Ria asks her to use this sword and attack her for 5 minutes. She says she won't use guns or anything. It's just that she can't help but guide her friend on the right path. Rose gets angry and says with a grin that she's pretty calm. She calls Ria a trash and asks if she doesn't know that she's her enemy. However, when attacking, Ria only kicked her in the neck. She was stronger than her. In the end, Rose lies on the ground tired, and Ria says it looks like they're done with it. She was shocked by such speed and strength. Strangely, Rose wasn't upset about her loss that time, they even let her start over. Ria reported to her superiors that she would join their regiment. She said that Rose would be under her control. It seems like it's been a long time since she taught a novice. So after that, during the sisters' instruction, their love for each other grew stronger. Ria wakes up and asks Rose not to mix lies with the truth. Rose happily says that her sister has woken up and wishes her a good morning. She wants to hug her, but Ria manages to move to another place. Yoji Amazaki says amiably that it turns out that the current Rose and her behavior are Ria's doing. She says that Rose later became the vice captain of the 3rd Regiment. At that time, she sincerely followed her instructions. She asked Ria to train with her. Ryu moves away from the enthusiastic girl. Ria genuinely doesn't understand why things turned out the way they did, that Rose loves her so much. Yoji Amazaki is also wondering why this happened. Yoji Amazaki sneaks in and quietly opens the door. He opens the barrels and says with great joy that the soybeans should have arrived yesterday. And he sees that nothing has happened. The beans are still at the bottom of the liquid. He thought, that the soy food supplement would turn black from salt water or something. Then Kazumi comes up to him and calls him Mister. He twitches. She leans in and asks what it is. Yeji awkwardly starts to say that it's nothing like that. She suggests guessing for herself. He's probably trying to make soy sauce. Yeji asks in surprise if he really knows what soy sauce is. She replies that she knows it's Yasha Sami's favorite condiment. Yoji Amazaki thinks that soy sauce was made more than 10,000 years ago. Kazumi gives him advice. He needs yeast if he wants to make soy sauce. Yoji Amazaki looks at her questioningly. She explains that he adds yeast to boiled soy and mixes it with fried and crushed wheat. A long time ago, Yeji read a story about a hero who made it very easy. He was so naive. Making soy sauce is a big challenge if he is a beginner without basic knowledge of how to do it. Kazumi asks again if he wants to make soy sauce. Yoji Amazaki replies that it is, but it seems that it is impossible in this era. He wanted to surprise Ria. Kazumi says that in that case, she thinks they need to search the ancient ruins faster. Yoji Amazaki asks her what she means. Kazumi says that there are all kinds of kitchen utensils on the 2nd floor of the Gourmet territory. If they open it, then they can get soy sauce, miso, ketchup, even mayonnaise can be made at the touch of a button. The territory of the hot springs on the ground floor is definitely amazing. If they had used the Gourmet territory, then their food here would most likely have become even better. However, he thinks about the golem and starts sweating. In the ruins, Ria asks him if something really happened. Before that, he was against them exploring the ancient ruins. He replies awkwardly that he thinks he's been thinking about a lot. It's just that he's afraid to fight the golem, but if that happens, he can escape to the 1st floor. Today's plan is just to investigate. He tells Ria that she is glowing with happiness, and she happily replies that she is. She thought that the shelter needed to expand their defensive power. Therefore, if they could get more golem allies like Kazumi, their combat power would become more reliable. Kazumi already starts to shine from these words. Yoji Amazaki thinks that she looks happy. They're walking down the hall. Kazumi points down the stairs and says that the 2nd floor begins here. They end up in a large field with trees. They go down. Yoji Amazaki is surprised that the 2nd floor has turned into this. Butterflies are flying everywhere. There is a fountain. Ria is also surprised that it is so spacious here. Compared to the 1st floor, this one is much larger. Kazumi clarifies that the lower he descends into the ancient ruins, the more spacious his territory becomes. Besides, the lower they go, the stronger the golem guards will be. Yoji Amazaki thinks that everything should be fine. After all, he will be accompanied by 2 combat experts. Kazumi also informs them that she is returning to the 1st floor now, so if they need anything, they can call her. Yoji Amazaki asks in a panic if she is really coming back. She apologizes profoundly. They golems are not able to cooperate with golems from other floors. Yoji Amazaki says it can't be. She bows to him and wishes him luck in their battles. Yoji Amazaki says goodbye to her through pain. Ria also nervously tells Yoji Amazaki that they will try, and he tearfully agrees with her. They walk along the path. Ria says it's pretty quiet here. He says it would be great to have a picnic here. They notice the fruits on the trees and wonder what they are. She asks if it's monkey bread. It's said that this fruit is bittersweet and quite tasty. One fruit falls, and Yoji Amazaki wonders how it is. Ria asks to leave it to her and give her the fruit. She takes off a piece of paper from her collar, pulls out a knife and cuts the fruit. Ji is shocked to see if it's a knife. She gives him half of the fruit, and he happily takes it and says he's going to try it now. He takes a bite and says it's delicious. He asks Ria if she wants some, and she happily takes it and thanks him. Yoji Yamazaki smiles. When they first met, she made so much fuss about the indirect kiss. He's already nostalgic, they've already done so many things, so this indirect kiss doesn't bother her anymore. She eats and says with red cheeks that it is so embarrassing. Yoji Yamazaki realizes that she seems to think the same way. Ria says it's an honor for her lips to touch the same place as the master. Yoji Yamazaki does not understand what is with this bittersweet taste, whether this circumstance can be called what society calls satisfaction. How stupid it is to be satisfied with life. Then all the girls suddenly twitch, and Yoji Yamazaki starts blushing furiously. Ria says worriedly that his face is red. What happened? He awkwardly replies that it's nothing, but at this time, crabs are crawling towards them from behind. Upon hearing the loud clacking of the disgruntled crabs, Yeji and Ria turned around. The crabs move quickly towards them, and they stand up in fright, not understanding what is happening. Yoji Yamazaki looks around and sees that this monkey fruit turned out to be their food. They take the fruit with their claws. Ria tells her master to stay behind her. She uses a fire bullet on these crabs. Yoji Yamazaki is surprised that she has become stronger than before, if that's the case. However, they see that the crabs are proudly clapping their claws and grinning, showing that they are fine. Then one jumps on Ria. One of them cuts off the hem of Ria's dress with his claw. She screams and freezes in place. The crabs have surrounded her. Yoji Yamazaki doesn't understand why they only attacked Ria. In this scenario, Ria will be in danger. He thinks, if magic doesn't work on them in any way, he decides to use something. He sees the fruit on the ground and takes it. He swings it and hits the crab's shell. The crab cries and squeaks in pain, not expecting such a move. Yoji Yamazaki thinks that this crab must be weakened now. The crabs are chasing Ria at this time, and she thinks to herself that everything must be wrong. Crabs also attack Yoji Yamazaki. After a while, the crabs lie exhausted with cracks in their shells, and he exhales and says, "That's about it." Ria runs up to him with tears and hugs him. She thanks him for saving her. Yeji looks at her and thinks that it was only worth this whole expedition. He is satisfied. He asks her if she is injured, and she replies in a trembling voice that she is fine because her master saved her. He says it's a relief. Yoji Yamazaki turns away from her with red cheeks and asks why don't they go back so she can change her clothes. She starts blushing too. She covers herself and says it's okay. She doesn't want to interrupt their expedition. She uses the remaining piece of clothing to cover herself. Then Yoji Yamazaki sees something and freezes in place in fear. Ria does not understand what is wrong with him and calls him. Then they both turn around and see a golem in front of them, which says that the intruders have been discovered. He begins to initiate combat protocols. Ria and Yoji Yamazaki shout, realizing that a golem has appeared here. The golem begins to let go of its body parts, and only its eyeball remains. Yeji trembles and wonders if it's really going into combat mode like that. Then tentacles fly from the eyeball in different directions. They all fly to the fountain, collecting liquid. As a result, a huge squid comes out, which says that the preparations for the battle are completed. The intruders will be exterminated. Yoji Yamazaki is shocked that he is so big. Ria confidently looks ahead. Then the squid starts attacking. The tentacles immediately grab Ria by the legs and pull her towards them. The tentacles hold her limbs tightly that she is unable to move. Yoji Yamazaki runs after her and screams, but she only screams from everything. Yoji Yamazaki prepares his fist and screams at the monster to get away from Ria. He strikes at one tentacle, but his fist goes through the body and leaves a huge mark in the form of a crack on the wall, and the tentacles of the monster quickly regenerates. Yoji Yamazaki understands that this is bad. It doesn't work. The monster's tentacles reach Ria's neck, and she calls out to her master in a trembling voice, losing the source of her breath. Yoji Yamazaki runs around and tells him to calm down. He realizes that this golem must have this button too. He comes up from behind and sees that there is an emergency stop button on the monster's body. He picks up a huge fruit from the ground, swings it, and it hits that button right there. This fruit is reflected from this button. He flies up, making a hole in the sky and flying to a new floor. Everything is destroyed because the sky is broken. Kazumi and the others are trembling on the floor above, not realizing what it was just now. Yoji Amazaki mentally apologizes to them. Here the monster says that the emergency stop button has been pressed, so it takes on a human form. The attacks have stopped. Yoji Amazaki is happy that he did it. The monster releases Ria. The tentacles begin to evaporate and turn into liquid. Yoji Amazaki catches Ria, and then they turn to the monster together. And they see a girl with 2 buns in front of them. The girl opens her eyes and calls him master, thanking him for waking her from her sleep. The golem introduces herself and says that her name is Futaba. She is the golem guard of the 2nd floor of the Gourmet territory. The second golem has Chinese clothes. Yoji Amazaki sees and starts whispering to Ria about her Chinese dress. Futaba asks him if he really knows her clothes. She says that the former owner, Mrs. Kitty, liked such clothes. Mrs. Kitty really loved long trips, so she brought them, golems, clothes from all over the world. Yoji Amazaki now understands why Kazuma is dressed in Japanese clothes. Does this mean that there is a place in this world similar to Japan? He thinks about what he wants to get there. He remembers something, namely about soy sauce. He turns to Futaba and says that he has heard that soy sauce can be made on this floor. She already beams and asks if it was Kazuma's sister who told him this. Futaba says that then she will tell him how to use this one thing, which stands a little further away from them. Yoji Amazaki thinks that it took him so long to achieve this. Finally, he will be able to realize the salty taste in this world. The 3 of them walk towards this building. They are surprised. Ria says that she is surprised that there was such a building in these hidden ruins. They see crabs on the board. Futaba says that this is the production of crab clones. They are surprised. She says that the crab clones are the magical guards of this floor. They are strong. They can not only use magic and hiding, and their production never stops. She says that there are always hundreds of them on this floor, and when the number drops, she makes more machines. There is also soy sauce here. Ria knows that she is weak for them. Yeji thinks they started replenishing them when he defeated the crabs. In these ancient ruins there is not only food, but also a machine for production. There is everything you could want. They come in. Futaba shows that this equipment makes soy sauce. Yoji Amazaki sees a monitor and a mouse, asks if it's really a computer. She says that, unfortunately, she cannot tell in more detail how it works. Futaba remembers that Mrs. Ketty always used this equipment to make soy sauce. He presses the button and thinks he's going to turn off the electricity. A menu appears on the screen and the question is what they want to do. Ria gets scared and says that as soon as he pressed the button, some pictures appeared in this box. Yoji Amazaki continues to move the mouse and thinks to see if he will test the soy sauce option now. They show him which ingredients will be used and ask for his consent. Yoji Amazaki is surprised that there is such a simple system. He agrees, and the car next to him starts cooking, but the girls immediately get on alert. Then a bottle of dark liquid falls in front of them. Everyone looks with interest. Yoji Amazaki tastes it, and happily says that without a doubt it is soy sauce. He was afraid that the ingredients he used 10,000 years ago had gone bad, but they tasted just right. He says it's amazing. Ria says with love that it is. As expected from the gentleman, he handled the equipment with such ease. He objects and says that it's really simple, but they tell him that he's modest. Ria says that the gentleman was able to figure out on his own how this equipment works. Even if the gentleman had clearly explained to her how this thing works, she still would not have been able to understand. Futaba agrees with her. Yoji Amazaki thinks to himself that it was easy, but the praise was too exaggerated. He suggests they try to do something else. They rejoice. They're leaving with barrels of groceries. They're going to replenish their food supplies. Futaba meets with Kazumi and says it's been 10,000 years. Ria was changing clothes at the time. They put everything on the table and say that everything is ready. They ended up with soy sauce, ponzu, miso, ketchup, and mayonnaise. Yoji Amazaki would also like Worcestershire sauce, that is, sweet and sour. It seems that complex ingredients are used there, so they postponed it for later. Ria turns to him and thanks him. She promises that she will do her best to cook tonight's dinner. Yoji Amazaki is so glad that Ria is happy. Ria turns to Slimy and asks if she can help her. She responds positively. It shows that the kitchen is located here. Yoji Amazaki goes to the computer and thinks about what else he can do. He presses the button and thinks. He wonders if it will work. Then 3 balls appear in front of him. He is glad that everything worked. He holds one in his hands and says it's candy from a monkey fruit. He tries it and says it's delicious. He'll make several different flavors and give them all to Ria and the others as a gift. They happily sit down at the table and offer to celebrate the capture of the second floor. They drink to health. They look around and say that there is also something like a dining room here. Next time we should invite Rose and Mireia to a party. He bites off the crab's phalanges and immediately drools. Pupils dilate from the wonderful taste. He says it's divine. His body is filled with a feeling of warmth and strength inside. Ria says it's probably magical powers from the crab clones. He is told that the stronger the magical power of the monster, the higher the concentration of magical power, he understands. So this is a feeling of magical power. He thinks about how his body is asking for more, but there's nothing he can do about it. Now he understands why Ria and the others wanted his saliva so much. Ria tastes it and happily says, "So this is soy sauce." She says that the meat of this crab resembles fish sauce, but it is smooth and soft. What a wonderful taste. She continues to suck on the phalanges. Yoji Amazaki says he is happy that Ria is happy with this. Yoji Amazaki reflects that ponzu is actually more suitable for crab, but today he wanted to emphasize the taste of soy sauce, so he didn't use a lot of ponzu. Futaba asks if everyone is eating. She serves more and more food and tells them to eat as much as they want, because there's still a lot left. Yoji Amazaki awkwardly asks how she can say that, because Ria cooked it all. Futaba replies that her specialty is cleaning the table, so she's very good at it. Yoji Amazaki asks why she has such a lame ability, and she sighs. And she says it's because Mrs. Ketty loved cooking. She really wants to learn how to cook. Kazumi pats her on the back, calms her down, and she continues to chew crab meat. Ria looks at Slimy, who is also enjoying the food, and says how delicious it is. They gained a lot of benefits by opening the second floor. They can eat crabs until they fill their hearts. At this time, a girl is standing in the forest. A vampire has crept up unnoticed. This vampire girl walks through the forest and looks around as if she doesn't know this forest. She looks up and says it's weird, it's too quiet. When there is an extremely strong creature, the lower-ranked monsters burrow into their holes and don't come out. The vampire smiles, showing her teeth. She wants to find and fight this man as soon as possible. She looks around and sees people standing by the lake. There's Yoji Amazaki standing next to Slimy, who's bursting with energy. The vampire is shocked by what kind of magical power it is. Yoji Amazaki tells her that if she drinks too much, her stomach will hurt. The vampire understands that this guy is ordinary, but the girl is on a completely different level. She understands that this is human strength. She wonders if the stronger the opponent, the more she gets turned on. She sneaks up on them and says she's going to kill her. Yoji Amazaki worries about Slimy and says she drinks too much. The vampire pulls out his claws, and Yoji Amazaki stands up abruptly. She falls on her back, and Yoji Amazaki looks around in fright and sees the girl. The vampire pulls away from him and doesn't understand why this guy is acting like this. Yoji Amazaki asks if she's okay, if she's hurt. But she doesn't understand. His magical power and body are completely ordinary, that he is just like that. She assumes a serious but cautious look, thinking to herself that it doesn't matter who he is if he gets in her way. Then she'll kill him. He attacks him sharply with a knife and makes a swing. She stops. He looks at the knife and sees that it just broke. She is horrified, thinking that it can't be. It was a secret blade that was given to her in the magic clan. He awkwardly says that it scared him. Yoji Amazaki asks her if it's really a toy, and she starts to get angry and tremble. Yoji Amazaki says it's not very good, it broke immediately after one swing. The vampire regains her breath and tells herself that she needs to calm down. She won't be able to win if she gets so worked up. She asks for the name of Yoji Amazaki. He answers with a smile and asks what her name is. She freezes and thinks that she knew this. She had heard that human strength is eccentric. She hadn't noticed it before, because the power he possesses is too great. She abruptly disappears in front of Yoji Yamazaki, and is now standing on a tree branch. Yoji Yamazaki asks her to wait. She says sternly and seriously that her name is Kanan. Let him remember it, she just lets him know about it. She leaves him. Yoji Yamazaki thinks that they will meet her again very soon. He ponders and thinks what it was, who this child was. Slimy has turned into a slime and is sitting on his arms. They're going home. Late at night, the Kanan stands at the entrance to the cave. She's thinking as she jumped off the cliff. Her name was asked. When she was little, she met a man who said he was fascinated by her strength. He says that he would like her to help them in their plans. They want to use her power as a weapon. She holds out her hand to him and responds to his offer to prove to herself that they are superior to these people. She holds her other hand and starts shaking violently. She thinks that she is all alone, and then shakes her head and dismisses these thoughts. She thinks that if she attacks her in her sleep, maybe she will have a chance to win, so the time has come. She wants to go into the cave, but then she meets Slimy in front of her, and she starts making angry noises. Slimy disappears in front of her in an instant. Kanan looks around. She sees that she is attacking from behind with her fist. She manages to defend herself. Kanan groans in pain, thinking how hard her blow is. Slimy moves away and stands in front of her. The Kanan freezes. And then he looks up, sees the slime balls, and realizes what's coming. A second later, a long scream is heard. Ria and Yoji Amazaki are sleeping sweetly on the bed. Slimy approaches in a non-human form and tries to say something. And then he screams sharply. Both of them wake up abruptly and get up from screaming. Yoji Amazaki asks, "What is it?" The little balls of slimes tell everything. They go outside. Yoji Amazaki asks Slimy what happened. Then he sees that Kanan is sitting in front of Slimy without clothes, who demands that she be killed. Yoji Amazaki wonders if he really heard these words. Yoji Amazaki slowly approaches her, then Ria protects him and asks her master not to approach her. Ria asks if this girl is a vampire, and she hides her gaze. Ria says that among the demon clans, this race has a particularly high fighting ability. It must be the killer who was sent to take the life of the Lord. Yoji Amazaki looks at her and cannot believe that this little girl is a murderer. Yoji Amazaki asks and clarifies about her name. Is it true? Ria says that, in her opinion, it's useless. Even if he asks her, for the killers to give out the name of the customer is more humiliating than death. Kanan lowers his eyes and repeats the request to kill her quickly. She sadly says that she lost the battle, so it's pointless for her to continue living. Yoji Amazaki thinks that she is more shocked that she was caught by Slimy. He remembers something. He leaves and tells them to wait a bit. He will be back soon. The girls look at him questioningly, and he returns and thanks them for waiting. He hands her a piece of candy, and she is surprised. Yoji Amazaki says it's a candy. It's sweet and delicious. He gives it to her, so she doesn't have to do anything wrong anymore. Ria says with displeasure that, in her opinion, the gentleman is too soft with little girls. Slimy stands next to her and agrees with her too. Later, Kanan leaves and thinks that it was terrible. She stops and looks at the candy, then she opens and looks at it. She raises the candy to the sky, looks at it for a long time, and then throws it into her mouth with interest, tasting it. Her cheeks are flushed. She thinks that it's delicious. She goes on, bouncing and singing along. Then she hears a voice that says that she is in a good mood. This is Grace's boyfriend, who used her power as a weapon. She asks him why he is here. Grace says it's terrible that she says that, because he came, because he was worried about her. He asks her if she has found out where this man lives. She replies that, of course, she found out. It's not a problem for her. Grace replies that he understands, and he's glad to hear it. And then he asks, in a stern voice, why she was doing something that wasn't ordered. She's twitching. And she asks what he's talking about. He tells her not to think that she can lie to him. She knew that his subordinates were following her. He asks again, since it was whether the human race was strong. She starts to think what to answer. After thinking about it, she says that he was strong, maybe she won't be able to beat him. Grace replies that it's clear to him. He says, disappointed, that this creates certain problems. After all, she's a key element of this strategy. But if she can't beat this man, then he doesn't need her anymore. She twitches when she hears these words. She remembers all the times when she was told to get out. Sooner or later her power would become a threat to the village. She was told and wished that she would disappear. Kanan starts sweating and shaking. Grace approaches and asks her to relax. If she can't defeat the human race just like that, then she can get the same power as them. He holds out a bottle of pills. Kanan assumes that it is. Then he says he told her about it earlier. These pills are made based on the relics of the human race. After taking one pill, she will have the same power as the human race. Kanan excitedly says that these pills haven't been completed yet. He says with a smile that everything is fine, they are constantly being improved. There will be no side effects from taking one pill. Then he asks if she really wants to be alone, as she was before. Kanan continues to tremble. She shakes her head and takes one tablet. She takes a pill, and Grace grins, and then Kanan starts screaming, tears come to her eyes, and a vein swells. Grace smiles and thinks that this is for her, Kanan. He wants her to play her last role. Yoji Yamazaki and Ria continue to sleep in their bed, and she says in her sleep that the gentleman is so cocky. They wake up screaming again. Yoji Yamazaki wearily asks what's going on this time. She replies that she doesn't know. Anyway, she suggests we go and see. They run to the exit. Yoji Yamazaki is worried about whether Kanan is really a murderer and has come to attack her. As they walk, a man shouts that he has finally found her. And it hits Ria. Yoji Yamazaki pulls her hair back, thereby saving her from being hit. The man laughs and shouts that it's incredible, his whole body is filled with strength. They look and recognize the old man. Kazumi comes up to them and calls the gentleman. He sees her with almost no clothes on and asks in horror if she is okay. They escape. Kazumi explains along the way that she is fine. But Slimy and other barriers have been breached. The enemies are attacking the first floor. Yeji is worried. Slimy and the others are safe. She says that they are in the middle of a battle. They were able to break through only because there are more of them, but they are still better than them in terms of abilities. She thinks Slimy and the others will be able to join them soon if she wakes up. Ria tells Yoji Yamazaki that she and Kazumi will take care of the enemies on the same floor, and he can help Futaba on the second floor, who asks if they are sure that they can handle it together. Ria points at the old man and says that if it's his opponent, then it's not a problem. She immediately uses a fire strike. Yoji Yamazaki leaves slowly and thinks that it was a good shot. Then he runs into Kanan, who says that she has finally found him. She sticks her knife into his stomach with a grin. He falls to one knee with a groan. Ria runs to him worriedly and asks if he is okay. Yoji Yamazaki says that everything is fine, the wound is not deep. He asks Ria to take care of Kybera and others. She wants to object, but then Kybera attacks her from behind. She dodges the blow, and Yeji thinks that, to be honest, it's not okay, but if he tells Ria about it, she'll worry about him. The pain is like he ate a lot of ice. He shivers and hears a voice that says it's unexpected. Grace appears, who says that the name of this magical blade is Blood Rain. It is capable of cutting through any kind of matter. As he thought, Grace says that the power of the human race is quite interesting. Yoji Yamazaki gets up and asks who he is. He replies that his name is Grace. He is from a humble tribe of demons. Yoji Yamazaki realizes that this is a demonic tribe. He asks if he gave the relics to Rex and Cyber. He replies that it is. The relics they made are different from his, as they are not perfect in various fields. So he made them his guinea pigs. Yoji Yamazaki begins to get angry and shout that human life is for him at all. Then Kanan comes up from behind and says that she is his opponent. She attacks and swings her knife, grazing his neck. Yoji Yamazaki is trembling and says it would have been dangerous if it had been a couple of centimeters lower. Grace tells Kanan that she can't kill him, who replies that she knows that. She says with a blank look that she won't miss next time. Yoji Yamazaki thinks to himself that then he will die, so let him obey the orders of his boss. She continues to attack, and he dodges as best he can. He realizes that she has become much faster than last time. He screams at her, even if she doesn't tell him that the demonic tribe gave him something in return. She asks, so what if that's the case? Yoji Yamazaki screams, didn't she hear what he just said? The relics he's making aren't finished yet. He realizes that he might become their guinea pig. She replies that it doesn't matter. Thanks to this medicine, she has become stronger, so that's why. She will do everything to get this medicine again. She must then overcome it. Yoji Yamazaki is worried and calls her by name desperately, while Ria shouts at him from behind that it's useless to talk to her. Ria screams that the darkness of the relic has already consumed this girl. Yoji Yamazaki thinks that today he does not want to believe Ria's words. He thinks that no matter what, he doesn't want to see Kanan get sick. He remembers how she held the candy with interest. He remembers something and searches for something in his pockets. He pulls out a sweet and shouts that he will give her a candy if she comes to her senses. Kanan attacks again, ignoring his words, asking if he's completely crazy. Yoji Yamazaki gets hit and thinks that reality is not as sweet as their candy. Grace says it's useless, no matter what he tries to do. She's completely under her control. Yoji Yamazaki is trembling all over. Blood is flowing from him. He is surprised that there is so much of it, he cannot think properly. He sees the blood on his palm and thinks he understands. Grace tells Kanan that now is her chance. She listens and prepares to attack. Yoji Yamazaki stands still and thinks that there is only one way to do this. He grabs her knife with his bare hands. He uses body-strengthening magic to the maximum now that he holds the blade. Kanan, who is a vampire, bites his neck and then opens her eyes in an instant and collapses to the floor. Grace screams, "What is she doing? She has to kill this man." Kanan starts crying like a child, drops the knife and says he doesn't want to hurt this man. Yoji Amazaki thinks that she has finally come to her senses. His blood, the power of the real relic, has worked. He thinks there's only Grace left. He's coming fast. And he attacks Grace, who falls and loses his mask. Ria approaches him and says that they have defeated all those who invaded them. Then she stops abruptly and says with fear that this can't be happening. Yoji Amazaki asks what happened. This man is dripping with magical power. She points at Grace and says that only humans can have the same power as the master. Yoji Amazaki wonders if there are other people besides him. Grace exhales a few times and says it was a terrible mistake. He takes his mask, puts it back on and says that he not only saw his true face, but also felt his magic, as expected from the human race. Yoji Amazaki thinks that people from this world died thousands of years ago. Maybe he was called from another world, just like him. Grace holds out her hand, so the knife that Kanan wielded flies to him. He tells Yoji Amazaki not to forget that someday he will repay him in kind. He snaps his fingers and disappears in an instant. Yoji Amazaki and Ria remain in place with worried faces. Later, Rose stands and says that she will take care of Kybera and his subordinates. Yoji Amazaki says that he relies on her. He hands the bottle to her, who asks what it is. He says it's leftover water from the bathroom. It should help to remove the side effects of the poison. Rose says it's pretty expensive. Is it okay to give it to them? Yeji replies that yes, but only because they were used by demons. Ria approaches them and says that she has completed sealing the curse. Yeji says it is a good job. Yoji Amazaki thinks with excitement that now that Grace knows about his hiding place, he probably won't be able to hide in this world anymore. A few days after the attack, Kanan is sitting at the table with him. She tells Yoji Amazaki that the sauce, which he calls ketchup, is delicious. The Kanan is now under their protection in the shelter. She finishes the can of ketchup and asks Yoji Amazaki if she can have more ketchup. This one is already over. Ria carefully wipes her mouth, and Yoji Amazaki says that he knew she would like it. He takes out more and says, so he made more. They ask him what it is. He says he doesn't know how it works, but he tried to make another bottle in the gourmet area, but he really doesn't know. Yoji Amazaki says she seems to like him very much, so there's a whole bottle here. She chokes on her saliva and looks at the bottle with great love. She starts eating ketchup with spoons and tells Yoji Amazaki that it's a good job. Ria is outraged that this is rude. Yoji Amazaki says he also has a portion for slimies. Kanan says that Ria annoys her so much. No matter what she does, this ketchup is hers, because Yoji Amazaki gave it to her. Ria begins to tremble with anger. She turns tearfully to Yoji Amazaki and asks him to say something to her. He says that eating a lot of ketchup is harmful, but what if the Kanan is ketchup? They don't understand and ask. He explains that this is the kind of person who loves ketchup very much and then adds it to everything. Kanan says that this nickname suits her perfectly. From that moment on, she is a ketchup girl. She asks if this is not an honorary title. Futaba cleans up quickly and happily says to leave the cleaning to her. At this time, Ria kisses Yeji. She hugs Yoji Amazaki on the bed, while Kanan looks after them. She calls Yoji Amazaki by name. They get scared. She says it's Kanan's turn. Ria steps aside. Yoji Amazaki mentally apologizes to Ria, but this is for the sake of increasing her strength. Ria obediently waits. The Kanan has been added to the daily kissing time. Kanan opens his mouth and bites his shoulder. Everyone looks in horror. Kanan continues to suck blood, and Yoji Amazaki's appearance begins to change. Ria stops her and asks if she doesn't have to go. The Kanan opens from her and tells Ria to close her mouth. She is sure that Yoji Amazaki really likes her flat breasts. She asks Yoji Amazaki directly about this. She tries to hold him close, but he sits there without comment. In this world, flat breasts are more popular, so the Kanan position is no mistake. Ria says how sorry she is. Then Ria intervenes and shouts to Kanan that the master is not interested in her ironing board, and presses Yoji Amazaki on the other hand. She asks if she hasn't already lost, and she replies that she hasn't, and that Yoji Amazaki is on the other side. Kanan shouts that this is nonsense, men usually like small breasts. Ria asks the master to tell her openly. because he likes bigger breasts. Kanan says that she is mistaken, because Yoji Amazaki prefers small breasts. Slimy hits both of them on the head to get them away from him, he thinks. Did he really bring together two people who should never have met? At this time, the goblins are walking through the forest, trying to collect food. One picks up a dried fruit and says that there is nothing good here. He says that because of the three of them in the middle of the forest, they can't find enough food or a place to spend the night. He doesn't understand who they are at all. Their magic is so strong that they can't even get closer. Then they see a pack of wolves, immediately hide and do not understand why they should be in such a place. They decide to inform the Master Eagle. They go to their hideout and run up to the headmaster. The eagle is an old man sitting in front of a large ball. They shout along with the head of the wolf pack that they are hungry. They're thinking about the same thing. Negotiations are taking place. Ria tells Yoji Amazaki that, in her opinion, they need to strengthen their defenses. Slimy is happily drinking from a bottle. Yoji Amazaki repeats her words and asks if she means searching under the second floor. She replies that this is not the case. She is talking about an increase in the number of people who guard their shelter. Futaba clears the table as usual. Ria says that when they were attacked, she realized that they did not have enough people. They would not be able to defend themselves when they were attacked by someone stronger. Yoji Amazaki agrees, saying it's true, they only have a couple strong people. He then suggests finding allies, who agrees and suggests uniting people who would like to work with them, the army of man. Yoji Amazaki asks what kind of human army, it confuses him so much. Ria sadly says that this is all because he is an army with a master at the head. She asks if Yoji Amazaki doesn't like it. He replies that this is not the case. Don't worry, the name is good, but he thinks to himself that it sounds like a demonic army. He asks how he can help. Ria replies that Yoji Amazaki doesn't need to do anything. Kanan joins in and says it's okay if Yoji Amazaki doesn't do anything. She says she and Ria will do everything. Yoji Amazaki thinks to himself that this cannot be. All he can do for the human army is a bath and food. He's starting to wonder if he's really in charge just on paper, if that's really all. His schedule looks like this. Woke up, had breakfast, talked to the girls, had lunch, took a nap, took a walk, had dinner. He begins to think bitterly, is he really useless? Kanan asks him what is wrong, and he awkwardly replies that everything is fine. They leave and say they're leaving this place to him. He waves at them and thinks, now he has more time to train. He trains with Slimy, runs, meditates, and fires, but right at her. And then plaintively asks for forgiveness. Ria comes up to him and says that they have found new members of the army of people. They are waiting outside. He goes out and sees the head of the wolf pack and the eagle, behind them, Kanan. Thanks Yoji Amazaki for waiting. One represents, he is an eagle from the goblin tribe, that Yan from the wolf tribe. Kanan says that they both would like to swear allegiance to Yoji Amazaki. Yoji Amazaki thinks to himself why he doesn't feel loyalty in them. Yan says he thought he'd be able to meet a member of the legendary human race, so he's a little upset. Oral says it seems their expectations were too high. Yoji Amazaki awkwardly whispers to Ria if she's sure they want to join. She thinks about it and says it's weird. Ria says she spent 2 hours telling them how wonderful Yoji Amazaki is. Maybe she wasn't good enough. She says, lowering her head, that she is very sorry. She did not expect that they would turn out to be rebels. Ria starts to think out loud that she should kill them both. Everyone gets scared, and Yoji Amazaki, in a panic, says that there is no need to kill them. Due to the fact that Ria used to be a knight, she can sometimes be too cold about life and death. He will try to explain to them. Orel turns to Ria. He says the reason he said he would like to swear allegiance is because he admires her strength, but swearing allegiance to him is a completely different story. In agrees and says that he accepted only the Kanan. They are a tribe of wolves. They prefer to die rather than obey such a stupid finger. He is outraged by his words. Yoji Amazaki tells Ria if she remembers giving it to him. She immediately understands and talks about the magic seal ring. It has been restored. She gives the rings to him. He puts it on and thinks that with it he can seal almost 100% of the magic. He says he will show him the full power of the human race if he impresses him. He asks if he recognizes him. In proudly says that he only saw the magic of a B-rank adventurer. No matter what he says, he won't be surprised. Orel says it's fun, she'll never compare to Ria. Yoji Amazaki summons a fireball at this time. This fireball grows to the scale of a bomb and explodes right above them. They stand in horror and ask if this is really the legendary fire magic. Oral calls him a liar, saying that he got this ring from Ria, maybe it enhances his magic on the contrary. Yoji Amazaki says that he misunderstood everything, this ring weakens his power. Oral turns away and says he doesn't want to hear anything from him anymore. Oral asks with a grin, maybe he will try to use magic without a ring. Yoji Amazaki looks at him doubtfully and realizes that if he does this, the whole forest will be on fire. He doesn't answer. Oral says he can't do that, so he wasn't mistaken, the magic was from the ring. In says he was almost tricked like that. Yoji Amazaki reflects that using the ring has become a habit for him. He wonders how to make them believe that he is human. Oral says that, however, he did not expect such a powerful ring from Ria. He asks if he really used a high-level magic jewel. Yeji doesn't understand what it is. Oral indignantly asks if he really doesn't know anything. He is told that magically, jewels are created from crystals with a high concentration of magic, and their magical power is great and diverse. Yoji Amazaki thinks it's just a more powerful magic stone. Oral tells Ria that they are ready to give the legendary magic stone to the goblin tribe. He blushes all over and asks if she will accept him. It's a huge ball. They look and think, so here she is. A magical jewel, then the ball disappears from his hands in an instant. It was the inn that took the ball from him, who in a panic asks what he is doing, and the inn complacently declares that it belongs to him. He says that the magic jewel originally belonged to the wolf tribe, and they only stole it from them. Oral doesn't understand what he's talking about. Wasn't it his father who stole from them first? He starts to get angry. In shouts if he thinks he's moving the needle again. His grandfather was the one who started it. He screams what nonsense that is, because it was his grandfather. Yoji Amazaki thinks that it seems this jewel has been a stumbling block for a long time. Kanan turns to In and tells him to stop behaving so rudely next to Yoji Amazaki, who asks him to forgive him, because he just wanted to give her this jewel. Oral shouts how rude it is. This stone belongs to Ria, why does he want to give it to this punt? He shouts that he will not allow him to talk about the Kanan like that. Jewelry is completely unsuitable for cow udders. Ria smilingly offers to just kill them, but is restrained by Yoji Amazaki. He turns to Kanan and asks if she can give him this stone. She gives it to him and asks what he's going to do with it, while the two continue to fight. He says that if he can find a solution to this conflict, maybe they will believe him. Yoji Amazaki sneezes, and because of his sneeze, a stone breaks. They stand in shock. In says it's unbelievable that he broke this stone with a sneeze. Oral says he can't believe it. Is he really human? He awkwardly says that he is very sorry for breaking something important, but people just say that a fight is already a defeat. Yoji Amazaki says that if the reason was in this stone, then he thinks that the conflict is settled. Then In immediately bows at his feet and shouts that they, the wolf tribe, would like to join the human army. He asks to receive them. An eagle immediately sits next to him and says that the goblin tribe also wants to join them. The wolf lies on his back, showing his stomach, conveying his trust. It is a great honor for them to meet a real person. Yoji Amazaki looks at the broken stone and wonders if it's okay. Ria admires him again. After that, a tribe of goblins and wolves joined the human army. However, they all hide in the bushes and fearfully shout to Yoji Amazaki that the situation is normal, reporting everything. Yoji Amazaki thinks it's a little weird. They want to make an alliance. If the size of the human army continues to grow, then conflict with the imperial city will be inevitable. Yeji thinks she's become smart. Maku village is located between the shelter and the empire city. It is very important to unite with them. Yoji Amazaki says that if that's the case, then maybe they'll go there. Ria says it's a small village with a population of 500 people. It's in a monster habitat, so there are a lot of adventurers from the capital. In the village of Maoku, they are wearing a raincoat and a headscarf. Ria says that this is strange. She seemed much more lively on her last visit. Then someone calls Ria and tells her to come here as soon as possible. Ria turns around and says it's the teacher. They haven't seen each other for a long time. She asks if he has received her letter. He says something interesting is going to happen soon. He tells her to stop being so distant. If she had told him sooner, they could have helped. She apologizes, they had some problems, so she couldn't talk to him. Yoji Amazaki doesn't see anyone. He asks Ria who she is talking to. She asks with a smile to let her introduce him. She points to the black cat and says that it is the head of the village of Maku, whose name is Rachel. She says that she taught her magic when she was in the imperial city. Yoji Amazaki freezes in shock and does not understand anything. The cat says indoors that it's a bit dilapidated and empty, but let him feel at home. Ria is making tea, and there are a lot of toys in the form of mice and fish around the cat. Rachel is playing with a ball and at the same time says that the man made a strange expression on his face. Since he is a cat, he does not need ordinary furniture. Yoji Amazaki thinks about what's wrong with that. Yoji Amazaki asks if he really knows that he is human. Rachel replies that, of course, he understood. At first glance, it was clear that he was different from others. He asks how Yoji Amazaki thinks he is. Yoji Amazaki briefly replies that he is a cat, who says that even the great sage Rachel seems to be insignificant in front of a human face. Ria says that initially, the teacher was the captain of the knights in the Imperial City. She was the captain of the strongest knight squad. The name of the great sage Rachel is known everywhere. Rachel winks and says that she was the most beautiful girl in the Imperial City. It's a pity that she can't show off her gorgeous figure. Yoji Amazaki reflects that the most beautiful girl in the Imperial City was more beautiful than Ria. He asks how she took on the form of a cat while Ria pours tea for everyone. Rachel says that something has happened. There is silence, and the cat begins to feast on the food. Yoji Amazaki thinks that this can't be happening. Instead of the most important thing, she just said that something happened. He begins to wonder if he should try to find out more. Rachel says that, as expected, the milk made by Ria is the most delicious. Ria thanks her. Then Rachel starts talking about the letter about the alliance with the human army. Yoji Amazaki doesn't understand how they got to this point. Rachel gets up and says she can't take this decision lightly. Being the head of the village, she is not her property. To make this decision is to go against the Imperial City. Rachel licks her lips and says it's not just her decision. Yoji Amazaki thinks that this is true. Joining their alliance means becoming enemies all over the world. For the head of her decision is very logical. Rachel says she can't refuse because it's her sweet student's suggestion. Ria happily asks if it's really true. Rachel adds that she has some conditions, especially for humans. She asks if it's his first time coming to the village. What does he think of them? After thinking about it, he says that he has heard that the village is filled with adventurers, but now it seems deserted. He asks if something really happened here. Rachel nods and talks about the evil dragon. The adventurer who saw it and survived gave it that name. This village was originally created in a hunting ground, so it is ideal for novice adventurers. For example, a horned rabbit is easy to catch for a beginner, but it has a high price. But when traces of the evil dragon began to appear in the eastern forests of the hunting ground, the number of people who came here decreased. Ria says, but if that's the case, wouldn't it be better to request help from the Imperial City? Rachel says it's impossible. She says she already asked them. Ria says it can't be. What are the knights doing? Isn't it their job to protect the citizens? Rachel shakes her head and says, it won't help. They're too busy with the undead that have recently awakened. Ria and Yoji Yamazaki get nervous when they hear about the undead. Rachel says it seems like a small village like Maku won't be able to get help. Those two are sitting with their heads down, and I think it can't be. A few days earlier, they saw a small wild boar. Ria says that she wanted to catch an adult, but she accidentally injured this poor thing. She says her recovery magic is still weak for that. The little boar is trembling, and Yoji Yamazaki says he has to cure it with his magic. He uses a cure. The boar gets up and runs away. Ria says it's unbelievable. He immediately felt better, but corpses began to come out of the ground. They don't understand what it is. Yeji's magic is so strong that it was able to awaken buried bodies. She didn't expect anything less. Yeji thinks it's entirely his fault. Indeed, at this time, the undead should have already headed towards the imperial capital. Rachel asks what it is, and he says in a panic that it's nothing. Rachel asks if he understands what she is trying to tell him, so here is the first condition. If the dragon is not killed, it will soon destroy the village. She adds that if they form an alliance with the saviors of the village, the villagers will take it much better. She says they should then. She doesn't finish the sentence, as both shout asking her to provide it to them. Rachel asks them not to react so vigorously. She says to start by going to a tavern on the outskirts of the city to get information about the dragon, even though there are fewer adventurers than usual. They enter the guild. Yoji Yamazaki looks around and thinks it's incredible, so this is what the adventurer's tavern looks like. Ria suggests splitting up and trying to gather some information. Yoji Yamazaki agrees. The blonde looks back at them and looks questioningly. Yoji Yamazaki walks through the tavern and thinks it would be great if he could gather at least some information about the evil dragon. He approaches the old man, apologizes for distracting him, but he would like to ask something. He turns around and asks if he's really a beginner. Yoji Amazaki says that he is interested in everything related to the evil dragon. The old man immediately chokes on his drink and pours everything out. Yoji Amazaki awkwardly asks if he's okay. He asks him to forgive, but could he ask someone else? He says he's not interested in helping stupid people like him. Everyone starts to refuse. Ria and Yoji Amazaki are sitting wearily on the steps. Yoji Amazaki says it doesn't matter who they asked, the answer is the same. Ria says it seems that talking about the evil dragon is a taboo topic between adventurers. Yoji Amazaki thinks there's nothing they can do about it, so he suggests going to the eastern forest. Then that blonde woman comes up to them. She asks if they're the newbies who want to fight the evil dragon. A team of 4 people stands in front of them. Ria immediately sees the girl and asks who they are. She immediately asks to be forgiven for her rudeness. She says her name is Nero, and the big guy behind her is Molozov. Next to the baby is Daytona, and this guy with long hair is Zoilus. They are B-rank adventurers from Maku village. Yoji Amazaki quietly asks Ria if the adventurers of rank B are strong. She replies that they are quite strong. Rank B is the 3rd rank in strength. Nero speaks bluntly. If they want to join their expedition, Yoji Amazaki happily wonders if this is a setback. He asks her if she could tell them the reason why they want to kill the dragon. Nero asks if she hasn't already told him. Every member of her team was born in the village of Maaku. And although she is forced to travel the world, her love for these places is strong. She thinks she can repay the debt to the village by defeating the evil dragon. She holds out her hand with a smile. Yoji Amazaki thinks, so this is their small homeland. Now he wants to help them out of personal motives. He shakes her hand and says he'd be happy to work with them. Suddenly, Zoilus shouts at Nero that he is against it. He asks how they can associate with people they don't know anything about. Ria screams how rude that is. Little Daytona asks if they really want to defeat the evil dragon. Yoji Amazaki replies that they do. He thinks bitterly to himself that it is his fault that help did not come from the Imperial City. Mazalov says it's very easy to say something. He asks if they even know the power of the evil dragon, who replies that he heard about the power of the dragon from Rachel. They ask in surprise, is he really saying that the great sage asked them for help? Who are they? Nero smiles and says it's just as she thought. Nero tightens his grip and shakes Yoji Amazaki's hand, saying that her eyes are lying to her. If they are familiar with the great sage Rachel, then they must be incredibly strong. Yoji Amazaki thinks to himself, isn't Rachel's trust too high? She says that if there are no more problems, then she suggests distributing the roles. She asks what they're good at. Yoji Amazaki starts to get nervous because he hasn't talked about himself since his last interview. So what can he tell them? He doesn't think he can just call himself a person. Ria then asks her to forgive her for interfering. She takes off her hood and says that her name is Lilia. Of all the types of magic, she is especially good at restoring magic. Yoji Amazaki wonders if it's a fake name. She adds that in addition, she can defend the rear or fight with a sword on the front lines. She says that she is a healer. She shakes her hand and tells her that not many people here can use recovery magic, so they expect a lot from her. Zoilus asks Nero not to be so trusting. Zoil says that people who say they can do anything are usually a burden. Nero asks him to stop, and he is outraged that he is only telling the truth. He shouts that they can't be sure that they know the great sage. He has to make sure for himself, especially, he doesn't like this weakling, points to Yoji Amazaki. He says that since he is a swordsman, he can assess a person's potential just by looking at his hands, some kind of sword. It seems to him that he has never held anything heavier than a pen in his hands. Suddenly, Yoji is horrified to notice a girl who, after a pause, stepped forward and uttered a gloomy cry. Then Ria comes forward, uses magic, seals him with his face in the ground, and asks him to shut up. Nero shouts worriedly to Zoila, who trembles and asks what she did. Ria tells him to be grateful. She says that gravity magic will make it easier for him to apologize to the master. Yoji Amazaki doesn't understand why. Daytona bends down and says she can't believe she can see gravity magic here. In this country, the only ones who can use this type of magic are the great sage Rachel and the Empress Sarah. Ria tells him to apologize or go to the afterlife. Yoji Amazaki becomes convinced that she wants to kill him. Zoilus apologizes and says that he understood, so they weren't lying about communicating with the great sage. Nero says that then Lilia will be a healer. She turns to Yoji Amazaki and asks what he can do. Yoji Yamazaki is even more nervous, not knowing what to do. Ria comes out and says she'll explain. There is no one thing that a master is good at. Yoji Yamazaki exhales with relief at the thought that this is true. He has absolutely mediocre abilities. Ria claims that it's because whatever he starts doing, he's doing great, so he's versatile. Yoji Yamazaki is in shock. Nero asks what he means, and she explains that both in magic and in technical martial arts, Yoji Yamazaki has no equal in this. She says that he is an example for everyone living here, and his very image makes people prostrate. Yeji shuts her mouth and awkwardly says that this is not true. He is completely ordinary, the most normal of normal, stable average. Nero says that if she said that, then it must be true. Ria says that the master is 10,000 times stronger than her. Nero says they won't hesitate, they have high expectations from this station wagon. She suggests preparing weapons and heading towards the eastern forest. Yoji Yamazaki thinks that there are too many obstacles. They are walking through the forest. Nero says that they have almost entered the territory of the evil dragon, so let them be careful. Everyone is tense. Yoji Yamazaki is walking quietly through the forest, then a huge wolf jumps at him with its mouth open, then Nero prepares an arrow and shouts at Yoji Yamazaki that it is a magical monster. Yoji Yamazaki doesn't have time to react in any way, but Nero hits his arrow right in the monster's eye. Yoji Yamazaki admiringly thinks it's incredible, she hit it with the first punch. Zoilus comes forward with great aggression. He swings his sword and cleaves the head of the wolf monster. However, another wolf flies towards him from behind. He turns around in fright, and Mazalov, who manages with his bare hands, tries to reach the wolf. Molozov leaves and tells Zoil in a stern voice that he shouldn't have let his guard down. He smiles and thanks him for his help. Daytona comes out with a magic wand and asks them to leave the rest to her. She uses magic and compresses the remaining monsters. Yoji Yamazaki stands with his mouth open and thinks, so these are the adventurers of rank B. Then Ria turns to him. He turns around and sees a pleased Ria, who proudly says that she has already dealt with them. Yoji Yamazaki is surprised to see a mountain of corpses of wolves. Daytona asks in surprise if Lilia didn't say she was a healer. Zoilus clucks and speaks, as expected from someone who is able to lay him on the floor. Even Molozov says that he is delighted with her body movements. Yeji thinks it was too much. Ria says that she is absolutely insignificant compared to the master. If he uses his full power, the monsters will be defeated without even blinking an eye. Nero is skeptical that if this is the case, then she is delighted. Yoji Yamazaki realizes that things are bad. Nero looks at him suspiciously, like a wife whose husband spent the whole day at the casino, spending the family budget. Zoilus comes up to her and says there's nothing to worry about, so don't worry. Zoil proudly says that if they have someone with Lilia's strength, they can do without the help of a generalist. Daytona agrees and adds that it is very beneficial for their safety to have someone like Lilia. All these words hurt Yeji's pride. He stands and shivers, thinking to himself that, after all, he is a universal. Ria turns to him and says that even if others don't think so, she can see his true strength. Yoji Yamazaki turns to her with tears in his eyes. Ria says that using acting skills to hide her power, she finds it an incredible trick. Yoji Yamazaki thinks to himself that there is no limit to her kindness. Then they hear the rustle of trees, and one of them shouts that it looks like a magical monster. Nero screams that it's an evil dragon. A huge black monster comes out in front of them and looks down on them. He opens his mouth and growls so that he blows Yeji away a few meters. He covers himself and thinks that it smells bad. Everyone is screaming in panic. Daytona and Nero can't stand the pressure. They lose their clothes and fall right on Yeji. Then Yeji looks up and sees Ria looking at them with displeasure. Yeji doesn't understand what happened to everyone. The reason is that the dragon suddenly released a gigantic amount of magical energy, and they won't be able to stand on their feet for a while. Yoji Yamazaki now understands what's going on. Yoji Yamazaki begins to reflect that these people are much stronger than an ordinary adventurer, but the evil dragon defeated even them. The dragon lifts off the ground and flies straight towards them. Ria does not hesitate and immediately uses a burning plate that seems too small. The dragon in response begins to open its mouth and summons a fireball. Ria freezes for a second and realizes what's going to happen. The fireball flies straight towards them. There is a huge explosion in this place, which can be seen from afar. Yeji manages to grab Ria and get away from the blow. She used an ice shield in turn. Yoji puts her on the ground, she apologizes for embarrassing him, and he replies that she always helps him, so it's okay. Ria says it looks like the dragon gets its magic power from a relic created by demons. That grace comes to Yoji Amazaki's mind. They run away from the dragon's attacks, and in the process, Yoji Amazaki asks Ria in a panic, asking him to tell him what he needs to do to defeat him. She tells on the way that the evil dragon is a dead man who feeds on energy from a demonic relic. She adds that if the dragon's power lies in this, then the master will be able to solve the problem by launching his good energy inside. Yoji Amazaki says that it's clear to him now. He suggests that we try to throw his hair into his mouth. The dragon flies straight towards them, simultaneously releasing its fireballs. Yoji Amazaki first turns around and then begins to run further, thinking that this is impossible. Ria turns to Yoji Amazaki and suggests that they step back and change their strategy. Yoji Amazaki refuses such a plan. He thinks about the guys and says they can't do this. He's thinking about the undead and doesn't know what to do. A thought occurs to him, but he's not sure if it's going to work, but it's still better than running back. Here Yoji Amazaki stops and screams to disappear. The dragon is instantly imprinted on the ground. Ria realizes that this is gravity magic. The source of the relic's power is humans, which is why his body has the same effect as the relic. He applies the treatment to the dragon, which begins to twitch and growl. All the dark power and mass of the dragon evaporates. Yoji Amazaki can barely stand on his feet, and says in a trembling voice that he did it, he defeated him. Only a skeleton remains of the dragon, and Ria runs to him with admiration and reward. Later at the house, Rachel tells them that they did a good job. Yoji Amazaki says that this is not the case. It's all thanks to her. He thanks her for sending Nero to help them. Rachel says that there is a great relationship between Maaku village and the human army right now. If the royal capital suspects anything, they will send a message as soon as possible. Ria smiles and thanks Rachel, saying that the teacher's support is very encouraging. Yoji is lost in thought. He wonders, after all, who Rachel is. A great sage, a former captain of knights, one of the best teachers of magic, and just someone hiding behind the appearance of a cat. He ponders and stares at her. Rachel asks with a smile, "What is it? Why is he looking at her like that?" He awkwardly waves his hands and replies that it's nothing, thinking to himself that it's stupid to ask such a thing. Rachel says with a grin that if he wants, she can show him, and he looks at her questioningly. In an instant, Rachel turns into a girl with no clothes on and tells him to look. Let him look carefully while he can. Yoji Amazaki begins to blush deeply, lets out a silent scream, and then abruptly covers his eyes with his forearm, while Ria looks at him questioningly. Rachel is sitting in the form of a cat again. Yoji Amazaki removes his hand and looks at the cat in disbelief. Rachel says, as expected, Ria is good at choosing men. She says she feels a little hurt, but she thinks if she were a little younger, they could date without any problems, although it's impossible in the form of a cat. Yoji Amazaki sits and does not understand if she deceived his mind, what it was, and Ria sits there angry, calling her a teacher through her teeth. She pulls the cat's cheeks and shouts that even if she is a teacher, she will not let her make eyes at Yoji Amazaki. She replies that she understood her, so let her go. The human army and Maaku village have formed an alliance. The conquest is complete. It seems that only a human could conquer it. A crowd gathers around the dragon's skeleton. People admire it, saying it's just incredible. They don't believe it's really that guy.